Hey, hello everyone. Welcome to another evening with me, Kalu. This is X Spaces with me, Kalu Aja. This is where we talk money, the economy, and of course, finance. And I want to make the topic, personal to you. How do the economic topics of the week affect your wallet? That's what we're talking about here every week. This week we have an interview, right? I'm speaking to Mr. Ajayi Oluwatobi. He is the MD, the chairman, and the CEO of Nord Automobile Limited. I've been trying to get him to come on here, and I'm so pleased that he's able to join us. Just so that we can talk around the issues of SMEs, manufacturing. He's on the ground. He is making stuff. This is not services. He's making stuff on the ground in Nigeria. So without much further ado, I'm just going to ask him to welcome to unmute, introduce himself, and then we can go from there. Thank you so much, sir. Mr. Jai. Do unmute, sir. How are you doing today?
I'm doing very well. Good evening here in Nigeria. I'm sure you're not in Nigeria, but it's evening here. Good evening, everyone listening. I really appreciate this. I feel privileged to be here on this space. Like you explained earlier, my name is Oluwatobi Ajayi. I'm the founder of Nord. Nord is one of Nigeria's auto manufacturers and assemblers. Yes, so that's what we do. We make cars, we assemble cars in Nigeria.
Excellent. You're being very modest, sir. I think that just to say that alone, just the fact that you can make cars in Nigeria. I mean, with a lot that's going on, that is just you're being very humble. But welcome to the space. Like, we won't just basically learn about what you do, and we just pick a few lessons as we do the interviews, guys. So let's just go on straight real quick, sir. So, just my first question to you: why cars, right? What is it in your background that prepared you for this role? I mean, did you want to do this? Is this what you wanted to do? You wanted to make cars, or you saw the opportunity? Let's put it that way.
Okay, so what I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I've always, from a very young age, I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur, and that's also because that's my coping mechanism for Nigeria. I grew up in Nigeria. I schooled all my life in Nigeria in a, what I call it, middle or upper class, family, and I saw a lot of my uncles, even though as my most of my uncles, even my parents were born in Lagos and Surulere, and even as well as the new people, they found it very hard to get jobs after their NYSC. And I saw this happening. I didn't want this to be my own side of the story. I didn't want this for myself. So I said, okay, what was I going to do? That means I have to try and create jobs. I have to look for a way to make things. And I looked for something that was very easy. We have a lot of farm from both sides of my family, my dad's side, my mom's side. So I said, okay, Nigeria also has a food. I was thinking about all these things when I was even a teenager before I even going to university. So I knew Nigeria has a very big food problem, even till now. I knew at that age that a lot of our problems will be solved if Nigerians can be able to get enough food at good price. So I said I was going to be a farmer. I used to joke with people I even date those days when I was a teenager, when I was really young, that don't worry, I'm going to feed 1,000,000 people. I'm going to crash the price of food in Nigeria. I'm going to be very popular. I'm going to be this. But I did not think it was going to be automobile. It was going to be farming, in my opinion. So I studied farm mechanization in school. After that, I came to Lagos for NYSC. I served in Mercedes-Benz. Now, after Mercedes-Benz, I really liked the place. It was a lovely environment. Like I said, I schooled in Nigeria. So you can imagine how in a Nigerian university, the culture wasn't so nice. So going to Mercedes-Benz Nigeria, seeing how well I was really treated well, I just said, I don't think I'm going to farm anymore. So I decided to focus on the automobile side of things, and I decided to stay at Mercedes-Benz, and I left the farming for a while. So one way or the other, because I've always wanted to be I'm trying to summarize, because I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur, somehow, even though I didn't do farming and produce food, now I produce cars. I just still found myself producing something. Even though life move me away from what I initially wanted to do.
Yeah.
So even the automobile, I ended up finding the opportunity, still seeing the problem of Nigeria, which is we cannot keep buying Tokumbo vehicles. A lot of our effects go out because people buy Nigeria is a very big market for cars. We spend between 1.1 trillion to 1.8 trillion naira on the year buying cars. But the sad part is that less than 5% of that volume is brand new.
Gotcha.
So 95% or even more of our vehicle purchased in Nigeria are used vehicles. So we don't create any jobs. It doesn't take anything to sell used vehicles. Just have one or two salespeople and have one small. You don't even need a showroom sale. Just have a canopy, and you're already selling cars. But for a market that size, this is about that 1.1 trillion or 1.8 trillion, like 1.5 trillion into dollars. You see that's a big market. Depending on exchange you use, maybe 3.5 billion, maybe 4 billion US dollars. That kind of should be creating thousands of jobs, tens of thousands of jobs. And that's what I wanted to do. I was in Mercedes-Benz. I saw how these people were just, sending vehicles to Nigeria and selling out, helping them to sell. And I said, you know what, we can make these things ourselves. We can create more jobs. We can add more value. We can help Nigeria. We can improve the GDP of Nigeria. And many other reasons, I have many other reasons why I started, which I can talk about if you ask me. But one of the major reasons was to solve some of the problems we have in Nigeria.
So it was more like, so it was cars specifically for the employment. I'm just trying to figure out why it was cars. Toby, can you hear me? Ajayi, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I'm here.
Yeah. So is it? So
yeah, I can hear. I'm here. Yes.
Great. So specific to cars, was it the need or the opportunity? Did something happen? Did a policy happen, or did you have, because of your background in Mercedes-Benz, you knew about that line of business and tried to go into it? What was the trigger for cars?
So a policy happened. Something happened. Very right. So it's about a drive for entrepreneurship. A drive, because I always feel entrepreneurship is creating value, solving a need in exchange for financial gain, in that order. That's always my idea of entrepreneurship. So, of course, as you want to solve that problem, the problem has to happen, must be there. Then you see the opportunity and the policy has to be there. So, in 2014, a policy came about in Nigeria called the National Automotive Industry Development Policy, NAIDP 2014. It encouraged local manufacturing in Nigeria. It increased the tariff for fully built vehicles. For commercial vehicles, it increased it from, I can't remember, maybe 10% or so, the tariff, to 35%. Then increased those for passenger cars from, I think, 20% to 35% duty, 35% levy. So a total of 70%. Then for semi-knockdown, that is an assembled part, but it's semi, which means that the parts are already painted, they're already welded, but they are still not together. You still need to come and put the axles together, put the engines together, put the transmissions together. Semi-knockdown, you pay 10%. For complete knockdown, which is the same thing you find anywhere in any factory in the world, whether in Mercedes-Benz, in Jaguar, Range Rover, complete knockdown, you pay nothing. You just bring it. So those parts, you need to weld it. So for the definition for complete knockdown means that it has to be unwelded, which means you have to have a welding process in Nigeria. That means you need to also do electroplating for anti-rust. You need to also now paint it and then after you do that, you now have to bring it to the assembly line to assemble. Now, so you pay nothing for that. So the encouragement was there. The giants of industry. Then I was in the industry, but I was in Mercedes-Benz then. The most senior men in my industry, like Toyota and Customs were really against this policy because they didn't trust the government. They felt that the government was always going to do a policy somersault. They said that people have invested billions of dollars in Nigeria in the 70s, and those investments have gone to waste. And so they do not want to invest in, because assembling cars in Nigeria is a very capital intensive. In any way, assembling cars is capital intensive. So this senior men did not think it was right. And we had a lot of town hall meetings with the government of the day then, and the minister, and he promised us a lot of things. He made a lot of promise, and people started investing a little. The 2015 came, and the government of that day maintained the policy. So I think that gave the industry players, including me, the belief that it was going to work out well. So between 2015 to 2018, just 3 years, Nigerians in my industry, people in my industry invested more than 400 billion naira. That's maybe more than $1 billion at that rate at that time. If everybody was just building assembly plants, building capacity, because we felt that Nigeria was ready.
Yeah.
And at that point too, that was one of the reasons why I said, okay, you know what? If this has happened, it means that the government of Nigeria is ready for this. Then we can actually take advantage of this thing. At that time too, the dollar was also, so it's a combination of different factors. So
yeah.
The government brought out a policy that I felt was in support of local manufacturing. Then, at the other end, I used to sell. I was selling Mercedes-Benz Sprinter, a bus. The Sprinter was going for 9.5 million because the dollar was around 160 at that time. You know, and Toyota was like 7.5 million. That was our competitor. You can imagine. So 7.5, we're selling for like 9 million, 9.5. Next thing, the dollar went to more than 400 within a year. The landing cost of a vehicle I used to sell just a year before at 9.5 million, which means that my cost price was a little lower, went to around 24, 25 million naira.
What? From 9 to 24?
Yes, from my cost price was around 7 point something million naira. It's less than 8 million. It went from that to 24 million naira within a year. The same vehicle, the same euro price, because we're buying it from in Germany from euro.
Yeah, just a naira price. Yeah.
The manufacturer did not increase the price. Just because of the currency devaluation within a year, between 2015 to 2016. 24 million naira. Of course, you can imagine. Vehicles that I used to sell about almost 200 units a year, 100 and something units a year. The 2016, I can remember very well, we sold only 33 units. And the 33 units, some of them was almost like emotional blackmail to some of the customers, because these are customers that they already had like pending orders. So we had to force them to buy. 2017, you don't want to even know the numbers. It was less than 33 units. So at that point, I said, this business was going to die because, we jumped something.
And when you say this business, Ajayi,
I tell you about myself. So if I told you my story, you would have seen how I got to being the CEO of a dealership of Mercedes-Benz. I didn't tell you about that.
But just to be clear, right? When you say this business,
if I tell you about that, then you know.
Ajayi, when you say this business, you're referring to the retail sales of cars in Nigeria, retail sales of imported cars in Nigeria. That's what you refer to this business, right?
Yes, as at 2017,
okay.
As at 2016.
Yeah.
You're actually the reason why I started Nord. Sorry, I didn't hear you.
No, just to be clear, just to follow, right? When you say this business was not going to survive, you are speaking about the retail sale of imported cars into Nigeria. That's what you refer to.
No, I was talking about my first company.
Okay.
My first company in 2015, 2014-15, I founded a company called JetVan.
Mm.
That company was an authorized dealer of Mercedes-Benz in Nigeria.
Gotcha.
Yes. So that company will bring in Mercedes-Benz fully and sell them. Do you understand?
Interesting.
And we're selling very well. We sold very well in 2014. We sold very well in 2015. But in 2016, we lost market share because what we used to sell for 9.5 million had to be sold for around 29, 28 million.
Jesus.
All within 1 year. So I realized that business was going to die.
Gotcha.
So that was when I knew that I needed to start a company that will reduce the cost of vehicles or the price of vehicles to Nigerians. So I said, you know what? Now everybody's complaining. Everybody's going to buy brand new vehicles anymore because nobody can afford it. And so I went again and I said, can you remove all these components? Wow. Can you do this? Can you do that? They refused because for reasons best known to them, they refused. And I told myself, this is an opportunity for me then. Nigeria already has policies at home that favors manufacturing of vehicles. You already have customers who will buy if the price is good and the quality is good. Luckily for me, I've been to all the Mercedes-Benz factories in Germany. I know how cars are made. I didn't know I could make them, but I know that I've seen these cars being made. I have an idea how they can be made. So it's an opportunity. If I can provide Nigerians with durable, elegant, easy to maintain, and affordable vehicles, then I will have been solving a very good problem. If I do this, then I can get a lot of my customers who cannot buy my vehicles anymore, who are going to rely on refurbishing their old vehicles, who are going to buy Tokumbo vehicles. I can get these customers to start buying my new vehicles that I've made here in Nigeria, because it will be a lot more affordable, because I won't pay duty and I will be able to control the factors of production. Electricity is expensive in Nigeria, yes, but land is cheap, labor is cheap.
It's very interesting.
And you also eliminate a lot of middlemen.
It's very interesting.
So I did the analysis and I realized that, I'll be able to I'll be able to provide affordable vehicles to Nigerians. And I started the plan in 2017. So I registered Nord in 2017. And it's been going well since then. I can tell you more. There, of course, tough times here and there because I had to design the vehicles. I had to source the materials. I had to travel around the world trying to get the right materials, trying to get what Nigerians want. Even, I was trained by Mercedes-Benz, which is a lot of German things. And you realize that, no, that might not be what Nigerians want. Nigerians may want to move towards the Asian parts like Japan.
Yeah.
Japanese parts are very popular in Nigeria. So I moved towards that area. So because that would allow me meet my objective of providing durable, easy to maintain and affordable vehicles for Nigerians.
Let me ask a question.
So to answer your question, I did it because the opportunity came. The vehicles were more expensive. Nigerians could not buy it. And Nigerians could not buy it, especially those that are doing businesses. And the government had a policy that was encouraging it. So that combination was a very big incentive for me. And I went into it. And to just give you a good example, Sterling Bank has been very important. I can give you another story. Sterling Bank is very important for me. It's helped me a lot. There was a time in 2019, a customer of Sterling Bank also it's one of the things about when you have a local production, when your economy just, the multiplier effect on your economy is just so big. So this customer has a transport company that provides logistics and transport solutions to some of the IOCs, the oil companies. And so the Sterling Bank finances this company. They buy buses, maybe like 4 or 5. After 4 years, the buses are, written off or something like that. The owner takes new buses because the IOCs want new buses, I think every 4 or 5 years.
Yeah. You
get. So the 4 years are gone. They wanted new buses. And they usually, let me not mention the brand, but the popular Japanese brands. So this customer went to the bank again. The bank did their cash flow analysis, and they realized that the revenue projections was not enough to meet the cost of the vehicle, of the bus. And that means from their analysis, that business will be unable to pay back the loan it was about to get. And of course, the credit team said no. This customer was really going mad. Like first customer was really, really upset, thinking he was going to lose his business. Was even considering leaving Nigeria at that time because if that business would crash, there was no point. And along the line, somebody in Sterling Bank just told me about it. That they have a customer that has a big problem. That this is the problem. Like he has a customer. This is it. Is there a way we can solve the problem for him? Because we have buses. Can we sell these buses to these customers? Since we also use Japanese parts, it's almost the same thing. Can we introduce? They can introduce us. So they can also introduce us to the IOCs, and the IOCs say yes. Then they can be able to finance because our vehicles are about 60% the price of this other popular brand, and that means that the customer will be able to afford it, and the loan will meet the credit objectives. Do you get? So we spoke to this customer, spoke to the IOC, and in a couple of weeks, the deal was done. The bank was able to, you can ask them, like I said, I mentioned the name of the bank, Sterling Bank, this was 2019. The bank was able to finance this customer because now the numbers make sense. And the customer was able to buy the vehicles from, and this customer has remained a returning customer since then. Now, these are the kind of solutions that when I remember, makes me very happy. If not for a company like us, because of the high cost of importing these vehicles, this customer would have lost his business. Jobs would have been lost. A lot of people would have, like now, the customer is my friend now. He told me that he was already considering leaving Nigeria because there was no point. But now he's in Nigeria, the company has gone bigger, everything is going well. And he's a success story. He's also his story is a success story of my own company. So those are the kind of problems that we solve that makes me very happy and shows me that we are doing this for the right reasons.
Gotcha. I mean, that's very, very good insight. I mean, I just had to write this down. 9 million to 24 million because of just one change in policy. That's inflation. So when Nigerians say inflation, that's how inflation comes into Nigeria because we've imported the inflation. So now once that car is 24 million, then everything has to take dressing. The car can't be 24 million and then fuel will be 10 naira. Everything has to take dressing, more or less. So that's imported inflation right there, what we call demand push. There's no supply of those buses, so the price has to go up, more or less. But if those buses were sufficiently produced in Nigeria, the price will be 24 million because there'll be competition, there'll be supply, then the price stays low. So this inflation we talk about... Go ahead.
Like the customer I told you, we solved the problem. At that time, he was buying the vehicle for 26 million, and he bought this vehicle for us for 13.5 million.
Interesting. So I mean, you guys are
bank could easily finance quickly.
So I mean, I see what you're saying.
The same vehicle, the same quality, just a different name, and it's made in Nigeria.
So because it's made, just to be clear, just to be clear, right? The same brand, the same chassis made in Nigeria is going for 13 million. And the same chassis imported. Can you hear me?
I can't hear you.
Can you hear me?
I didn't hear your question.
Yeah, so I was just making sure I was getting it right. The same vehicle chassis, right, was going for 13 million naira made in Nigeria. And the imported vehicle chassis is for about 26 million. Is that what you're saying? I'm not sure if you can hear me. Let me add someone just to confirm you guys can hear me. Mr. Ajayi, can you hear me?
I can hear you clearly.
Okay, let me ask a question again, sir. Sorry about that. Yeah. So I'm just going to be clear on the impact of local manufacturing. The locally manufactured bus that you made with the same chassis is going for about 13 million, but the imported version is going for about 26 million. Is that correct?
Exactly, correct.
Okay, just to get that point in there, just so that the audience is following completely. Thank you just for that point.
Yes.
Let me go back to this. I want to just get a few questions into you just to answer. So who is you've given us an insight of the demographic of the Nord customer and also where you are basically sourcing the Nord cars from. If you had to say the Nord car, what is the DNA of a Nord car? Is it the Mercedes or is it the Eastern? What's the DNA of the Nord car?
Okay, very nice. So I was trained by Mercedes Benz, and we all know they are luxury. You cannot deny that. However, Nigeria is not, or at least the people of Nigeria, the average guy on the road, the average girl on the road, we're not rich. We cannot buy luxury easily at the moment, except it's subsidized. So I knew immediately, which was a problem for me when I was starting Nord, because all I knew was the German products, German brake pads, German engines. But I knew immediately that was not going to work in my country and solve the kind of problem I wanted to solve. I want to solve a problem where an average person, an average hardworking Nigerian, can normalize buying brand new vehicles. They don't see Tokumbo as the only thing. Do you understand? They don't buy Tokumbo and go and praise God in church. They have to, they have to see that they also, like that, their counterparts in Japan and in America, they also deserve to buy and normalize buying brand new cars. So I knew that to do that, it had to also be affordable. It had to be durable. So we don't make luxury vehicles. We make what I call utility vehicles, elegant vehicles that the everyday people can use. The hardworking guy, the middle class, the upper class can use. That's what we use. We're not making the Rolls Royce or the rest. We're not doing that, at least at the moment. To answer your question about demography, our target market is the middle class. The middle class, the upper class, the corporate organizations that want to be efficient, the government, parastatals, the military, paramilitary, I think, to answer your question, more than 90, let's not say 90 because we have a lot of, so the majority of the working class in Nigeria, less than 90% of the employed, gainfully employed, not the other, gainfully employed Nigerians, not what the statistics are saying now, about 1% or 1 hour, gainfully employed Nigerians, about 80%. The hardworking, decent Nigerian, that's what our market is about.
Interesting. So let me ask you a double question, because I want to get folks are already asking to speak. Let me ask you a double question, right? Is manufacturing in Nigeria viable? And what is your largest expense? After these two, I have a last one. So, is money? I mean, you've told us 13 to 26.
Let me answer quickly. Manufacturing in Nigeria is not viable at the moment. So the answer is no, big no. And I don't know why this is. It's a shame. It's not. I'm hoping that I intend to be closer to the government of the day now. I intend to spend more time in Abuja, try and talk to the government, and because I'm in Lagos, I'm always in Lagos. But I think that I have to take a leadership role in this my industry, and try and do what every normal businessman anywhere in the world, Musk or whatever, you have to talk to government, you have to lobby.
True.
So at the moment, manufacturing is not viable. It's just not viable. I was on TVC some weeks ago, and I said something which I'm going to repeat now, and I can break it down for you. It is currently more expensive to assemble cars in Nigeria than to import it. It is a lot cheaper, significantly cheaper to import fully built vehicles in Nigeria than to assemble it here. So people ask me, so why are you still doing it? Okay, well, I was doing it because when I started, the incentive was there. That's what I was explaining to you. I was giving an incentive that started in 2014. In 2020, the last government, for reasons I do not understand, reasons we fought against, removed it. Some people who do not want to do the hard work of creating jobs in this country. Some people don't do the hard work of moving Nigeria forward, who just like to import things and do trading and do the easy things out, went to the government, created an association or something that I don't think that association really exists. argued that we manufacturers in Nigeria, that's one of the reasons I said I have to go to Abuja well, because when you are not talking to government, when you are in the back seat,
of course,
some people can actually go there and lie and misrepresent your industry and say things that are not true. So they went to the government and said that we don't have the capacity. Let me just shock you. People have been to my factory. I have 2 factories in Lagos. I have in Ekpaya and I have University of Lagos. My combined 1 shift, I can do 2 shifts, but let's just even say 1 shift. My combined assembly capacity in Nigeria at the moment is more than 9,000 units a year.
9,000 a year. That's not petty. That's large.
Yes, and I do not sell Kalu more than 200 units a year.
Oh.
So you can do the mathematics, do the ratio, do the percentage.
Oh.
So I'm not even doing anything close to what my capacity is. Not even 10%. Not even 5% of what my capacity is.
Not even 1%, bro.
You know, no, a little bit above 1%, maybe 9,000. So 10% is about 900.
You're about 2.2 or so.
Maybe 2%. So my factory is, you can even go there. My factory is always closed.
Wow, come on, man.
Bro, let me just say something. We've been robbed 3 times in the affair factory. 3 times. Do you know why? In my opinion, do you know why we've been robbed? 3 times. We lost a lot of money. A lot of equipment were stolen. And do you know why we've been robbed? Because the factory is always closed.
Wow.
If it was a working kitchen where you're always making things.
Wow.
Because the people that they wasn't robbed, it was burglary. It was just burglary. People that were very hungry or bored in the neighborhood went and broke into the. And you know why I know the same guys? Because they've always broken that same place. The same pattern.
Man. Let me.
The fence the same way.
Yeah.
People say, "Oh, why don't you use this electric fence or this or that?" I'll power. I use that factory because I can produce what I get a month in 2 days. Do you understand? I can produce the total demand I have for an entire month. I can produce it in just 2 days. So do you think I'm going to power my factory?
That's a crazy stat. That's an absolutely mind-blowing stat you just said there. I mean, I'm in shock. Olumide, are you hearing this?
There's no way we're going to leave a lot of things. So now, we've gotten a lot of security there. Everybody is there, but we still are not doing anything. So people went to Abuja and lied that we don't have capacity. That's not true. So because of that, they decided to scrap the incentive, which was making people manufacture vehicles in Nigeria in the first place, and invest. So what has happened now since 2020 is that a lot of the people that are just doing this, which I don't blame them anyway, they're just doing this for the purely financial reasons and everything, have stopped investing in the auto industry.
Wow.
And people like us that have the drive, that are doing it for some patriotic reasons, mixed with financial, and also, like I said, we've also trained. I sent a lot of my technical team for training. We spent a lot of money on training them. We bought equipment. If I stop assembling, it means I have to let these people go.
Man, bro.
It means I have to lose that training investment. It means I have to lose a lot of investment.
So you're just carrying that cost. Cost.
Exactly. So what I'm doing now is we are trying to cut our costs as much as we can. Try to see how we can do a hybrid of not losing too much money, and hoping that as soon as possible, the government will see that this is an industry that can create tens of thousands of jobs.
That's the thing.
Anywhere in the world, in Brazil, in Germany, they call the auto industry the mother of industries.
That's the thing. That's the mind-blowing thing. I mean, that's why I wanted to bring you to the space. Most of the stuff you're saying, I wanted you to come and see it. just to be able to understand what you're going through. You are carrying costs. You are telling us here. Just to be clear, are you saying it's 9,000 or 18,000 capacity?
9,000.
Total.
Yes, total. Yes,
So you are not doing.
One shift.
Man, you're not doing 5% of your capacity, not because you don't want to do it, because of policy.
No. Carlo, when you come to my factory, we're always bored. We're always idle.
Crying out
And
loud.
we pay salaries every month.
Question for you, Ajay. Question for you. Did the CBN, all the CBN intervention loans, did you get any of that?
I didn't get any, not one.
But you could have employed people.
We applied, but we didn't get.
You applied, did not get.
Even going to see.
What the?
See, Carlo,
What's going on
I don't
here,
know
man?
if anybody
Hey.
in the government is listening to you.
They are listening, trust me.
I don't know if they are listening, but we can easily make this country great. It's not so. I'm not saying it's simple, but there are a lot of low-hanging fruits. A lot. So we didn't get. We requested for. We didn't get.
Okay.
If you ever come, I don't. If you ever come for, we have some association. We have an industry, right? And we have an association, NAMAS, Nigerian Automotive Manufacturers Association. If you ever come for our meetings, if you hear the allegations, the things that go on, how people are upset about some things that are not right in the industry, you will shake your head.
Okay, and again, just for the record, I'm going to ask you this like a question. So, if I was to ask you the one thing, or the what's your largest expense apart in your factory? Is it power? Is it wages? Is it policy in action? Let's put policy in action as an expense, because I wanted to ask you that separately. But
So very good. No, you asked actually. Let me answer. I have an MBA, so I want to a finance person. So I'm going to answer this the right way. So the answer I wanted to give you initially is not really it's not an expense. It's not an expense. It's something where it will go on. But I'll answer it in two ways. It will go under what you call cost of sale. Mm. So, and if you reduce it, so the most expensive part of my P&L was basically, is a cost of sale item, which is the steel.
Oh, okay.
The steel, the body, the body
that's
used in making the cars.
That's imported?
Yes, that's what I'm going to. It's all imported because we do not have a steel plant in Nigeria. A lot of my partners outside Nigeria are not, they are wondering
Ajayi,
how
open up another,
because they think even a local government can have this, So it's the most, and let me say why it's very important. Right now, I told you now, because of a lot of import substitution that we do here, we make a lot of our parts in Nigeria. We make about 30% of our parts here in Nigeria. Our grills are done here in Nigeria. A lot of our plastic parts are done here in Nigeria.
Wow, good job.
So now, but the steel, I would love to do the steel in Nigeria because apart from the fact that it's a thing of pride, if we make the steel in Nigeria, we would. So when I make steel, when I buy steel, I have to buy the steel. I buy it mainly from China because China has cheap steel and also very good steel. So I buy the body from China, and I have to now ship it from China. So apart from the cost of the steel itself, the body itself, there's also the freight cost, and also the logistics cost of moving it from the port down to the factory. In Nigeria.
In Lagos. You're not even going far.
Lagos, yes.
Ports to Lagos.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so a container at the moment is around $4,500 for a 40-foot container. So maybe you can do 2 per container, 2 body per container. So you can divide. That's about.
What? That's it? Just 2?
2,250 per car, added to the cost of the body itself. Then the cost of logistics from the port to your factory.
Wait, quick question, Mr. J. Quick question.
If we get the steel in Nigeria, tell you from my analysis, I've said this in a couple of interviews, the cost, the price, not even the cost, the retail price, which were already 50% or 40%, depending on the model, lower than most other international brands in Nigeria. Our retail price will drop by as much as 30%.
Of the per car?
Per car, yes.
Question for you. When you say you're importing steel, are you importing the flat sheets or the already molded sheets? What is steel?
No, the already molded sheets.
Okay.
The already molded sheets.
Okay.
In some cases, even welded. In some cases, not welded.
Okay.
But the already molded sheets. Because, you can. That question is because we can do the pressing machine here, the pressing.
Yeah, that's what I was going to.
We need about 5,000 units
to make it viable.
Which is not a problem.
Interesting.
We are not a serious country because Nigerians buy more than 500,000 vehicles every year. So 5,000 units is just 1% of the market. But the problem is that more than 95% of that is used already. It's used car.
Man. Mr. Ajayi, you are opening up a lot of avenues here. I was going to ask you a simple question. Let me ask you. You are importing steel. There's Ajaokuta, there's Delta, there's Jos, there's Osogbo, there's Katsina. You can't get steel from any steel factory in Nigeria.
No, you can't. I've done the workings. You travel and travel and travel.
Oh, wow.
And you see beautiful Nigeria. Nigeria is beautiful. We have good landscape.
Mr. Ajayi, before I hand over the mic, because people are waiting, people hands are up. Let me just go back to this. The last question. Nigeria has a lot of gas. We've seen them do the CNG. We want to convert to gas. Maybe it's an advantage. It's cheaper than fuel. Do you think on a strategic level, Nigeria should maybe just do CNG and focus on that to give us a unique selling point? So cars out of Nigeria are CNG is cheaper. We give you guys subsidies to get that done. Do you think it's viable or just go stick with the petrol and worry about that stuff later?
This is a good question, and it's also not just a commercial question. It's also at the moment globally also a political question. Nigeria, in my opinion, Nigeria should make decisions in the best interest of Nigeria. Just like every country is doing. China is making economic decisions in line with the strengths of China. USA is making decisions in line with the strength of the US. Same thing with UAE and the rest of the world. Nigeria should do the same. What's our strength? Nigeria is a gas nation. We have tons of gas. So much gas that most of the gas that we found are actually found when we're looking for crude oil. So people even say Nigeria is a gas station with a drop of oil. We should use more of this gas. We should build more infrastructure for gas. It's cheaper. It's been designated as clean. And we should also promote it. We should do more PR on it. Personally, I like electric vehicles. When I'm outside Nigeria, I drive electric vehicles. They are fast to drive. Like the acceleration is mind-blowing. But I have to not be selfish. I have to ask myself, my country, Nigeria, are we in a position to promote CNG or electric or do both? I would say we should do both so that we're not left behind when the rest of the world is doing the electric. But we should actually also promote what we are very good at, which is, or what we have in abundance, which is also the CNG. So because at the moment, CNG, petrol is maybe, in fact, you hear that they're even subsidized. So that means that the original price of petrol at the moment, I think anywhere in the world, the original price of petrol is about $1. So it's always also considered at $0.9, that's 90 cents to $1. That's always the price of petrol on average anywhere in the world. But CNG is around 200 naira in Nigeria. Even lower, if in my opinion. But I've gone around to ask. I heard it's about 200 naira. Which means that that's about 20-30% the price. So it means that for somebody who is going to buy about 60,000 naira for maybe someone that is, the person would go the same journey for 20,000 naira. That's significant. If you tell somebody doing Uber all this or Taxify that instead of buying 10,000 naira for your car for maybe a day or two, if you buy 2,500, it will be enough for you. The person will make a jump on it. So I think we should go for that. But the problem at the moment is the infrastructure. So which can actually, the government does not have to build infrastructure themselves. You just have to call the private sector and let them know that this is your policy. And there will not be policy somersaults. We just need to, the government needs to show us that it can be trusted. There won't be policy somersaults. You can invest in this and we will not do any policy somersault. And I'm sure the private sector will invest. Even me, I'm very interested in investing in CNG and also providing my customers all over Nigeria with CNG points where they can actually refuel their CNG vehicles. Because I really think that this would be in Nigeria's favor. We have the gas here. So we don't have to spend our hard-earned FX because we already have it here.
Gotcha.
Just treat it, compress it, and take it all around the nation.
Makes sense, sir. So, Mr. J, let me just sort of reset the room, summarize, and let folks speak. Let just let you know we have about nearly 400 folks listening, more than about 420 listening. The mentions I'm getting on my DMs, notifications are off the hook. I can't even read them again. I'm not looking at them again. There are so many people interested in what you're saying because you are saying what we see and you're also saying what we haven't heard, but we now start to get a sense of the problem with Nigeria. Let me just summarize what you've told us. You used to work in a company that does imports. You saw an opportunity because there was a policy passed by the government. The policy worked, you went and set up your own local manufacturing in quote company. That company set up in Nigeria dropped local prices. We're talking about 13 to 26 million. You dropped inflation, you hired workers, you paid taxes in Nigeria. That's what you were doing. Then the policy, the same policy that encouraged you to come to Nigeria and set a local manufacturing center was removed. Now you have a factory that you have a capacity of 9 times 2 because you can do 2 shifts, 18. You are idle because you don't get enough demand because prices have gone up, number one. Number two, you import your steel from China, even though we have 5 steel plants in Nigeria. Number three, you are importing the bent steel, not the flat steel, because it will take you about 5,000 capacity of vehicles to do that steel bent in Nigeria. If you were able to do that in Nigeria, the cost drops by 30%. I would even say more. If that cost drops, you sell more. If you sell more, your factory capacity goes up. You're able to then modernize that factory, hire more people. So the vicious circle starts again. And it starts and ends with one word: policy. The policy brought you in. The policy took you out. The policy is keeping you where you are. You've said you want to go to Abuja and chase that policy like Elon Musk is doing. I say good job. That's what you should do. That's just my summary. And the point I'm making is this, guys. When we point to the government, we don't want to abuse or accuse anybody. We want to tell the government one policy change. You've said it, sir. PPP. You want the private sector to come in, policy somersault. One policy can change the nation. You can. This is a real example. Policy. He's not asking for money. CBN did not give him money. He's saying give him the policy. Let him go to work. That's all he has asked for. That's not too much. Let me get some guys to speak to you, Mr. Ajayi, if you don't mind. I don't know how long you're going to stay with us, but please remember that.
I'm here.
Yeah, lots of folks will speak to you. Okay, Olaleye Idowu. Go ahead, sir. Olaleye, you've got the floor. Going once. Olaleye Idowu. Yeah.
Yeah, good evening.
How you doing, sir?
Good evening to you, Mr. Kalu.
Hi.
Of course, Mr. Ajayi. It's been a very insightful session.
Very. Where are you calling from, if you don't mind?
Okay, I'm from Mayoto, Italy,
All right.
States.
Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, so I think it's just it's the nail on the head. It's been so vocal about everything that's happening, and it all portrays what I've been saying. Let us have an enabling environment for investors to try, either those foreign nationals or Nigerians. And I'm quite impressed with the fact that he knows his onion and he knows where it's actually pinching him as an individual or as a business owner. And I hope it's going to make sure there's that synergy or alliance. And that's why, like he said, as a business person, it's always good to be in the limelight and not be on the back foot. So other people that don't have vested interest don't come and spoil what you're about to work for. So
good point.
So far, I just feel that.
Did you hear anything he said?
No, I didn't hear anything he said.
Oh wow! He's making some fantastic points.
Let me just summarize.
I didn't hear anything at all.
I'll summarize back to you. He's making some very interesting points. Go ahead.
So summarily, he knows what he wants. All you need to do is there should be a synergy because he's a technocrat.
I can't hear you.
Mr. Ajayi, what he said? What Mr. Ajayi? The main thing he said.
Because the truth is,
hold on.
Enabling environment, right? Like he said, there will be jobs.
Okay.
You spoke about him bringing some of his equipment.
Olaleye. Yeah. Could you just summarize from the top to him? Mr. Ajayi can hear you now. Just summarize from the top so he can get you what you're saying. The part about you saying he has to be visible, so that people don't take away his job.
Right. Summarily, I hope that there will be synergy between him as a professional and the government of the day. Because if there is the enabling environment and policy, everything will work out well. So that youth like myself, and some other persons that have stake when it comes to, getting jobs or being, evenly occupied will get a job and it will be better off for the country. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Mr. Ajayi, the main point he said that I want to just refer to, he said, right, it's very important that you are out there so that people will know you, and then when they want to pass this sort of policies, they can call you and say, does this make sense? That's the one thing I got from what he said. That and that's what you want to do now. That if you are out there, then the government can say, "Hey, we want to do this or do that." How will it affect you? That's the one point I took away from him. Okay, let me get Shego, Mr. Ajayi. Let's get Shego. If you can't hear, please let me know ahead of time. Shego, you've got the floor. Shego _A_Shego. Go ahead, sir.
Good evening.
How you doing, sir?
And Mr. Carl, good evening. Hello? Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, I can. Mr. Ajayi, can you hear Shego? Okay, Shego, hold on. Ajayi, can you hear Mr. Ajayi? Can you hear me, Mr. Ajayi? Mr. Ajayi, can you hear me now? Mr. Ajayi, can you hear me now? Can you hear me? I want him to go off.
Carlo, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. I want you to log off and log back in again. Go off and come back in again. Can you hear me? I'm going to send you, let me send you, log off and log back in. So that if you can hear me, log off and log back in again. Then that way, I think your audio isn't connected to the space. Can I just kick him off and then you have to come back in? Will that work? Shego, just hold on, please. Mr. J, can you hear me? Okay, I'll tell you what, right? I'm going to kick him off. Then that way he has to come back in again because he can't hear us. So let me take him off the space. I'll remove him. Then if you can, please, Mr. Ajayi, just log back in again. I'll just add it as a speaker. Shego, I'm not sure if you want to take your question before he comes or if he just wants to talk generally. I think we all heard what he said. He's talking from the trenches, as they say in quote. So do you want to go ahead and speak, or do you want to maybe I can write it down, and when he comes I could relay that what you said to him as well?
Okay, I can just go ahead and speak, and then when he comes back he can just
okay, he says he's back. Let me look for him and add him. I see him here, so I'm going to add him as a speaker. Give me a second. I'm just going to add him. So Mr. Jai, I've added you back now as a speaker. So I want you up there so you can hear. All right. So go ahead, Shego. I think it's back up. Go ahead.
Okay. Thank you very much. Okay. My question is actually directly is to him directly. I want him to tell us he said something about saying there's no company in Nigeria that is producing steel. I want him to expatiate further on that because we have all this steel. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, I can hear you also. I'm back. I can hear you.
Oh, all right, thank you. Because we have all these steel companies literally around the country. We have the Ajayi, the Delta, and then I'm surprised to hear that none of them is producing maybe steel, great steel, vehicle manufacturing grade steel that you can use in your process or your production process.
Okay,
is it that they are not okay?
Okay. Be done, so I can answer. I thought you were done.
Is it that the quality of steel they manufacture is not up to the standard you can use in vehicle manufacturing process, or they don't just do something that you guys need? That's my question.
Okay, so both. What the quality of steel and the type of steel that we need are not being made here. Like Mr. Kalu said, we need flat sheets that are rolled, but basically flat sheets. So you take it to a pressing machine that cuts. So first of all, it cuts in, you cut it, then you press it into the shape that you want, which after you created a mold. So you create a mold, you take the mold to a pressing machine, then the pressing room on the pressing machine presses it and you get your shape. So we don't make such in Nigeria. What we usually make are steel for maybe construction and a couple of things, but not for the type that is needed for making cars. So that's the issue. And even if you find a place that can make that kind of steel for the auto sector, well, I went to Delta Steel. I saw them making some steel, but they could only do what you need for construction. Like I said earlier, they couldn't do what we wanted, and they were not really interested in doing what we wanted for the automotive sector.
And Mr. Ajayi, they will only be interested if there was a policy saying the government would maybe subsidize the price.
Yes,
they're not interested because it's not. Yeah, exactly.
So it's a volume business. They need the volume to. They need the volume to provide the incentive for them to do that.
Correct.
It's just like, let me give you a good example. It's just like the glass too. I wanted to start making, because we buy our glass from China also.
Wow.
I just thought about it that, what is glass now? Glass is a 3,000 years old technology. So I went to a company I went for an event and I met this company that makes glass in Nigeria. In fact, they make the bottle for one of the biggest breweries in Nigeria. In fact, two of the biggest breweries in Nigeria. That's how big they are.
They're in Lagos and Southwest. They're right there.
Yes.
They're right there.
And I spoke to them and I said, can you please make... I don't want to be importing my glass anymore, the windshield. Can you please make them for me? And they were very interested. They were happy. They loved what I was doing. But of course, eventually it came down to the numbers. They gave me a minimum amount I had to do, which I know with the current rate I will not do in 50 years. So I couldn't do it. So and like I said earlier, but the amount they were telling me to do, I know Nigeria is less than 0.5% of Nigeria's annual car demand, annual car market, less than 0.5%. But we couldn't do it because we do not buy enough brand new vehicles in Nigeria.
So we're back to capacity, we're back to utilization, we're back to all that, which is only the government can solve. The government can create that mass capacity, mass market. So thanks, Shego. Great question. Thanks, Shego. Let me get my Ago 2. Is it Ago 2 or Ago 2?
Yeah, Ago. It's just a quick question.
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead. Where are you calling from, ma'am?
We're in the Caribbean for work, right? And we met some government officials, and they were talking about importing cars from Nigeria. So I don't know where you are in the import side of things. And they were telling us so much about how they want to import cars from Nigeria. They want to do business with Nigeria. So I don't know if you've been to the Caribbean to talk to them and see about if we cannot meet your capacity in Nigeria, maybe the Caribbean market might be an attractive area.
What Caribbean states? Where?
We were in Antigua. Jamaica, and just Barbados, just around that area. We're just doing some work for the ports, right? And they're talking about, oh yeah, you're Nigeria. They got excited and they're like, yeah, we're looking at buying cars from Nigeria to meet our demand and stuff like
Interesting.
market. I don't know if they said innocent. They talked about innocent, and I actually thought maybe innocent was the only one we're making in Nigeria. Then I realized that you existed. So I don't know how far you've seen the export market, how the Caribbean looks like, but the government officials showed a lot of interest.
Yeah. Interesting.
So you're very right. They've contacted us. A lot of them have contacted us from Jamaica, from St. Kitts, from even Barbados. So a lot of Jamaican government officials, by the way, have contacted us, and we're speaking with them. But so in fact, we even got a dealer. I can't remember his name now. Signed a dealership contract with him. I was supposed to go there. This dealer is in Jamaica. So we're looking at it. We are seriously considering it. However, I do not think the market is that big. But it's very interesting. I like the fact that they like us. I like the fact that even though they are closer to the US market, they are also really very, like you said, they are very keen. They are always asking us. They are always sending us messages. Very, 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 very encouraging. That's the word. Very encouraging. But the market is not very big. I think the highest demand is about 20 units a year. The dealership we got, which is interesting. It's good, but it will not probably solve some of the problems we're talking about. So, but we are looking at it, and very soon we will be importing some. And we also import. We just after COVID, before Egypt got into this very big problem of their FX, we sold some of our Nord tanks to Egypt.
Interesting.
And we also even got an Egyptian dealership. But next thing, Egypt got into a bigger FX issue than Nigeria. Actually, it's bigger than Nigeria's issue. So they couldn't import anything.
Just curiosity, why are they interested in Nigeria all the way from there? Is it because we're quote unquote in the same demographic? Why do you think they're interested in why?
It's a good question, and I've not asked them because I don't want to come across as being not worthy of the. Of the
right, don't go overdo now. Yeah,
but I've analyzed it. So for the Egyptian ones, let me start from the Egypt. For Egypt, I think they realized that it was were affordable compared to the other alternatives in their markets. They realized that we are affordable, and that was why they contacted us.
And this is
so I'm not very happy the digital economy is not good because that would have been a big market. I'm even bragging right for us because these guys, they were using it with a security company, very popular security company in Egypt, with headquarters in UAE. So they would have been a very big market for us. Then, so like I said, they were buying from us because we had a better price than the other, mostly also Japanese substitutes in Egypt.
Interesting.
Then the Caribbean. Also, we also have in Ghana. We have a lot of Nord vehicles in Ghana. Ask people who go to Ghana, sell our buses, and I think the reason is also because we're a lot cheaper, we're a lot more affordable than the
imported
other
Toyota
alternatives that Ghanaians import. So
that means Mr. Ajayi,
sorry.
That means that if you were able to get this stuff in Nigeria, your rolled presses, your power,
we will move the entire Africa.
Africa is. Interesting.
Yes, I can see it already. We will just easily.
So if there was someone in government listening to you now, right? I mean, he's giving you a low hanging fruit. Invest in the road press for him. He can do more cars. He can drop his cost, and he can do much more. I'm just putting it out there. So let me take Wumi. Wumi, hi, Wumi Omoluabi. I hope I got that name right, please. Please go ahead.
Yeah, you're right. Thank you, Mr. Carlo and Mr. Ajayi, for giving us this opportunity, to give us the eyesight about the business in Nigeria. But I just have a quick question. I get the problems that is going on in Nigeria. But the question is, you said we don't produce flat sheets in Nigeria, which enables Mr. Ajayi to import from China, which has become the biggest price in your market or whatever. But then I see a problem. However, the question is, why don't we have a sheet market in Nigeria? Mr. Shegun already tried to answer that question, but then Mr. Ajayi responded with, they're going to give you some quotes, which is literally 0.5% of the car demand in Nigeria. But then again, is why should Nigeria be only your market? Why can't you think about exporting? But my main question is, why don't we have a flat sheet market in Nigeria? That's the question. Not question number one. Question number two. If the government can't do anything, why can't we have private investors to solve these problems? We cannot necessarily wait for government every time, but why can't we have private investors to solve this problem? We have flashes problem in Nigeria, the government is not doing anything. Why don't we have private investors to try to solve this problem so that your job as a car manufacturer is going to be easy instead of sorting from China?
True.
Thank you.
Good questions, Mr. Jai.
Good question. Mr. Kali, you want to ask something?
No. I mean, she's asked you. Just more detail.
We have the flat sheets in Nigeria.
We don't, because we don't have any steel plant in Nigeria. That's a simple answer. We have no steel plant in Nigeria. Only the one in.
Apart from that, we don't have. So you know, you're saying why we don't have the volume. It's an economic question. Like, you know, people always say, the numbers don't lie. You cannot. It's like water. Economists will always find its level. We don't have the volume because we don't have the volume for the brand new in Nigeria. So we need to do something, and that's where the government comes in. We need to do something to encourage Nigeria to start to buy brand new vehicles because we have the market. We don't have a problem with a lot of smaller countries. We are a big country. We have the market. Even if you say, only X amount of Nigerians are in the middle class, that number, let's say 20%, 30%, that number is bigger than the size of a lot of African countries. So we have a market. All we need to do is create the right policies that would ensure that people can be able to buy brand new vehicles made in the country. Our second question is, why are we moving the responsibility to the government? Why this? Well, I think we're not moving any responsibility to the government. Like Mr. Galu said, we're not asking the government for funds. I started not without government funds. We got private investors from Nigeria and outside Nigeria. We just need enabling environments. We just need.
I think, Mr. Jai, you are being a bit too modest, sir. Let me just say it this way, sir. Right? There is no car company on earth, America, Russia, South Korea, that has been built without government direct funding, direct patronage, direct policy. Not even an indirect, direct. Tesla today, he was his own private capital, I get it, but without the government subsidies on electricity, he won't sell one Tesla, one. Same thing with China, same thing with America, Ford, GM, all those guys. So the government has to create scale for you, sir, which means that, look at what you just said. We've identified just one critical part for you. We've said the steel pressing mill is going to cost you millions. CBN or whoever can buy it for you and give it to you on hire purchase or lease purchase. They buy it, give it to you, and you pay back as you sell every car. Every car you sell, you take 10% and you pay back the government. 50-year loan, who cares? 50-year loan, you are paying back. But you are creating jobs in Nigeria. You are creating capacity in Nigeria. That's how you do it. But to say that only you and your investor should go and invest in a steel bending plant, that's too much capital for you, sir. No.
Yes, we won't be able to. We won't do that because we are not sure that and that's not even our business.
It's not your job to do that.
That's not our business. I work in Mercedes-Benz. Mercedes-Benz buys their own steel, just like I'm buying steel. They're in the business of making cars, not steel. It's like you saying because you have a restaurant, you have to start growing your rice.
Right, no, doesn't make any sense. We won't do that. And again, just to be clear on the steel question she was asking, Nigeria, Ajayi was designed to make the flat sheets. So if you don't make flat sheets, you can't develop as a nation, in quotes, right? But what they make now is mostly the rods. So you see rods, you see those round other things. Construction. That's what they really focus on in Nigerian steel manufacturing. Ajayi is a steel plant. Delta, Oshogbo, those are all. Is it
Delta?
Yeah, they're all direct steel reduction plants. They were supposed to. They do something different from what Ajayi is supposed to do. The one in Kaduna, is one that's a bit revolutionary. That's going to do DRI, direct reduction ion technology. Is like a Jalkuta. It would make steel. So hopefully, but again, his issue is scale. Because Mr. Ajayi can't go and buy 1 bale of steel. No, that doesn't make sense for the steel factory to run its furnace to supply 1 bale to Mr. Ajayi. They need to get an order. That's why Ajakuta cannot start working. You need to have a 5-year order, 5-year raw materials on ground before you turn that microwave oven called the furnace on. Otherwise, the thing will just knock, in quote. So you need capacity. You need to have the forward sales before you go and turn the factory behind on. That's what we're trying to say, just to give clarity to that. But then let's just go quickly on the question. Lots of questions are coming in. Eunice, I've got you right here. Eunice, go ahead.
Well, thanks for having me, Mr. Carlo and Mr. Ajayi. Hi, everyone. Good evening.
Where are you calling from, Eunice?
Good morning and good afternoon, wherever anyone is. What I have to say, are you guys hearing me?
Yes, we are. Where are you calling from?
Mr. Ajayi, I'm just calling from somewhere. Hi.
Go ahead.
So my take about this auto limited stuff in Nigeria is, we all know that steel company is the backbone of a nation. Steel company is a backbone of a nation. Without a steel company in any nation, that is why Nigeria is where it is today. Because there's no reason why the steel company in Yoruba land is not functioning for 62 years, working perfectly well. The flash sheet we are talking about, how many engineers have turned out in Nigerian universities? How many engineers have turned out in Nigerian universities for 62 years? You mean the government doesn't have the money with all that resources on ground to food that company more than 100% functioning, and hiring all those engineers to bring out all those flash sheets that is needed by private companies or government companies to work with for automobile? Like somebody recently said, the last person that talked, there's no way you can carry out this kind of, a project without government. Tesla almost have to borrow money from California. California gave Elon Musk, Tesla, when they started, lots of billions to start their job. We remember what happened in 2008 and 2009 with Ford Company and the rest of them. When they went down, the federal government of United States of America loaned them. Obama gave them billions of dollars for that company now to go down in Michigan. So the point I'm just trying to say is that if we have engineers in Nigeria that can help produce this steel, why can't the Nigerian universities or government give them scholarship to go to best universities to go and study these things? It's not rocket science. It's not. Nigerians have the brains to study these things on scholarship, come back to Nigeria, help build these companies, and get all these companies working.
Thank you,
Eunice. You can't have investors coming into Nigeria without all these things being established. We all know all that. And another thing is security. Security boils down to most of these important things that need to be carried out in Nigeria. Let us stop fooling ourselves. I'm sure there are elites here with smart brains that know what to do to move Nigeria forward in 62 years.
I got you,
Aren't
Eunice.
you people ashamed?
Eunice, I got you.
Talking about flash sheet. We
Good
should
point.
get beyond that by now.
Good point, Eunice. Good point. I got you.
We should.
I think it's the same point again, and like Eunice, again, if I take you off the space, just remember it's just to add more people. No, your comments are well respected. I think the point again, Mr. Ajayi, we go back to this steel issue. When we talk about Ajaokuta, I've written about Ajaokuta. I have personally gone to all all of Nigeria's steel mill. I think I've gone to Oshobo. I've gone to all of them. The same issue. Ajaokuta, this is where we are today. If Ajaokuta had worked, Nigeria would have been a different place, but it hasn't worked. And it will not work. We've had this argument on Twitter. I posted it. When Buhari became president, they were telling Ajaokuta, I posted it. Go and look at it. 2016. Lots of people are attacked. Some people, it has not worked today. Because it's not, it's economics. You can't cheat economics. It needs to have many things working. The railway, Niamako, raw materials. We have to import the limestone, even the coal. Ajaokuta was a big, quote-unquote, 419 they did us, right? They built the factory and designed it for us to import from them to make it. We were importing billets from Ukraine to make steel in Ajaokuta. That's the only time it worked. But let's not go into steel. So we have to stop and start and say, what do we need to get steel to Mr. Ajayi and the other guys?
I don't know much about the one in Kaduna, but in fact, a lot of the future of Nord is like I would say built on is relying on the success of that place.
Kaduna is the technology. What's killing Ajaokuta is that it uses like a furnace, like a big pot, a furnace. So before you have that furnace up, you need to have all your raw materials before you can start it. But Kaduna is in what they call DRI, like what Delta is. That's what Kaduna is using, DRI. Yeah. But Kaduna uses local steel ores. That's the key thing. It's designed to use local inputs. Ajaokuta is designed to use imported inputs. So that's a big.
I'm one of the reasons I'm hoping that Kaduna would work, because it means that if we can do it well, the cost of the steel will be comparable to the international cost of steel.
Now you're getting it. Yeah, excellent. Yes. Yeah, exactly. Let me get Ewoma Vese. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, good evening. Can you hear me, please?
Loudly and clear. Where are you calling from, sir?
Okay, yeah, thanks very much. I'm calling from Lagos, yes.
Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, my question, I have two questions. One for you, two for you, Mr. Ajayi, and one for you, Mr. Carlo. Now, Mr. Ajayi, fantastic work you are doing, persevering, in spite of everything. Now, you've explained how your target market for cars are mostly the middle class upwards and all that, and how, all that dynamics. I've always asked this question about automobile manufacturers. What about manufacture of tractors? Because, and I'm saying this because we see the money government throws at agriculture year in, year out. The demand and supply of tractors is abysmal. Now, is there something there? Like, is there something there, when it comes to tractors? Now, my second question is as regards what do you call it? I forgot what that. Buses. Yes, even buses. I'm not talking about this. I'm talking about these large buses, because Nigeria doesn't have like mass transit infrastructure like that. So what about that? Now, my question for you, Mr. Carlo, is you've been talking about this Kaduna, going into steel and all that. Is this also connected to the prospective AKK gas pipeline? And in an earlier webinar, this weekend, you said local manufacturing is expensive. And I think Mr. Ajayi has also validated that. So will this gas pipeline and others also make whatever steel that they are going to, supply to people like Mr. Ajayi cheaper than what he's importing from China at the moment? Thank you.
Fantastic questions. Mr. Ajayi, you want to go first?
Yes. Okay, let me go. You asked about what about manufacturing tractors? We manufacture buses, pickups, SUVs, trucks, tractors also. However, like we all, it's economics, it's just commerce. You would focus on areas where you have the best opportunity of selling, even though you may, or you've built the capacity to produce other items. So in Nord, we can produce tractors, we can produce, like I said, I was trained by Mercedes-Benz, we make trucks. We can make trucks also, which is same tech, close to making tractors. However, we've not made a lot of tractors because, as you mentioned, I don't think government has been buying a lot of brand new tractors. If they have, we have not gotten orders. We've not even gotten RFPs. So, and that's where it comes from. You can go to the Bureau of Public Procurement. You will see our name. You will see other local manufacturers. You can go there and say, okay, we want to buy X amount of tractors. Bureau of Public Procurement, can you send a message to local manufacturers of vehicles or motor vehicles and tractors in Nigeria? They know us. Can you please send them a request for proposal, and we're going to do a bid, and we're going to pick the best price for the best quality. They don't do that. So it's until when you start to do things like this, that's how it's done in most places. That's how it's done. You are there, you build your capacity, the government comes, or the entity comes, and they ask you to make a proposal, they do a bidding or competition, and they choose the winner. If you don't win, you learn your lessons, you go back, either reduce your cost or increase your quality or do both. So we can make the tractors. It goes back to what we're saying. We just need some intentional decisions from our government. I'm going to digress a little. The US you see today that you are all shouting and making noise. I made a tweet some days ago. I said, when will Nigeria's Sputnik? It's one, I don't know if everybody has read this thing. There was a time the USSR launched an object into space in 1957. That thing, it was like electric shock to the US. Because of that thing, the president at that time signed the National Aeronautic Space something. Well, the act that actually formed NASA. And that's the foundation of what we call Silicon Valley today. A company called Fairchild, which is the founding company of the popular Intel we know today, will not have been possible. So basically, your computer will still be the size of a refrigerator today. Man will not have been on the moon if the US government, via their military, were not patronizing companies that were not even up to 3 years old. They were deliberately calling for bids, saying, I want to see companies that can make transistors. I want to see companies that can make this because we want to go to space. Those companies did those things. I don't want to go. And later, when the government even now stopped doing business with them, they moved into the mass market, producing computers, producing transistors, producing microprocessors for us. But it started with the government patronizing them.
I mean, it's a good point. It's a good point you're making, sir. Like, this is the point I'm making. The government's job is to create scale.
Yes.
To go somewhere and say, this guy is a young car company. He cannot compete with Ford and GM today. So we will let him stand on our shoulders. We will give him order for 50,000 units. So he has orders in his hand. He can then expand. He can hire people. He can grow. He doesn't need... CPM money is one part of it, but you give him that badge, locally made, preferred manufacturer. Give him all that guarantees. We can close our eyes.
Reason to employ more people. Reason
Correct.
to train more people.
Correct.
Reason to grow capacity.
And then
that same capacity, like I said, you stand on the government's shoulder. Then you can now move to Kenya, Zimbabwe, South Africa, even Egypt. You know. So that's how it's done. So if they make orders for tractors, we will supply. The same thing with buses. Anyway, I hope the government, that's why I said, I hope the government, if you watch the news, they are going to, one of the palliatives, one of the ways to, just ease the sufferings of Nigerians because of the increase in the price of petrol, is buying CNG powered buses. And our company is one of the companies that I'm hoping we submitted our proposal.
Wait, they haven't given you yet?
Sorry?
They haven't given it to you yet? I mean, it's you, the other guys?
They have not given it to us yet.
Okay.
But we've submitted our proposal. We've submitted our pricing. We also noted to them that this will create thousands of jobs. We are going to assemble all those vehicles in Nigeria, complete knockdown. We're going to do the welding here. Everything is going to be here. Explain to them that thousands of Nigerians are going to be employed in making these buses. So we hope that they give us the contract.
I hope so.
And we hope that gives us opportunity to employ more people and grow the scale that we really, really need to grow. So for buses, yes, we do it too. And we are there, but we can't be as big as you're mentioning if we do not also get the demand from the government and other people and then the other entities.
Yeah, good point. And just to answer his second question real quick, it's sadly, you confirmed the point that we made last week that local manufacturing is more expensive than import, which is why the dollar has become very expensive. Because if I import, it's cheaper for me. So holding the dollar at 1,000 naira is cheaper than holding the 1,000 naira itself. It's crazy. And that's why dollar is going up. Because I just import and I save money than buying local. So think about it. If you think about it, your mind will explode. That rice imported to Nigeria is cheaper than rice grown in Nigeria. It's crazy, but it's true. Yeah. So to your second point about this gas pipeline, there are a few projects that Buhari should have done from day one that he did not do, that my mind was blowing. Like if you want to create an industrial powerhouse in the north. First of all, I did a tweet a long time ago and I said, if you look at before Nigeria was Nigeria today, we had northern Nigeria, western Nigeria, eastern Nigeria, midwest Nigeria. Go and look for the industrial plan of northern Nigeria. It is the best document you will see written for any country to go from agrarian, third world to first world. The British wrote it for them, step by step. This is what you do, this is what you do. And they actually did it. If you go to Bauchi, what you call Bauchi today is Bauchi, Plateau, and other states. Not this Bauchi, it's small, the big Bauchi. Go and look at Google the amount of industries in Bauchi alone, what they do. Google it. The ones that make wires, cables, the ones that make roofing, the ones that do cattle. Google what's in Bauchi state. You would see where they were going to. You're an agrarian society. You're going to do agro-allied and manufacturing. That's what's going to take to the first world. They were practicing it when they were 1963. It stopped after the Civil War. The army came in. They now started looking at oil. The point I'm making is this. The manufacturing in Kano and Kaduna died because of power. And this gas AKK pipeline, if you take power to the north, you drop the costs of making textiles in north, then it's a game changer. You have the market, so their scale goes up, their cost per unit falls. Even the Chinese cannot compete with them again. So that means they start to export textiles from northern Nigeria all across West Africa and all across Africa. Then you tie that into Burna Boy and all these guys wearing Nigerian textiles. You won. You've won the race. Ethiopia can't even compete with you. But we have short-sightedly left that project to the dying embers of the regime. It's not funded. We're now using our own local funding to do the pipeline. It's the most expensive pipeline in the world for gas. They will tell you it's bigger, it's whatever, but it's pretty expensive. That's why the Chinese pulled out. If that pipeline works today, the cost of power falls. That's 30% removed from the table. Tell Mr. Ajayi to take away 30% from his table and then let him give you a pricing. So, big project. We delayed on it. It's a critical strategic project. We should get it done. Ajayi, let me just go straight to Econet. Econet Enterprises. I hope I got the name right. You've got the floor, sir. Please go ahead. Econet.
All right. Sorry.
Okay, thank you. Hope you can hear me.
I can, sir. Go ahead.
Yes.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Ajayi. Also, I so glad to be on this space because this is actually my field, also manufacturing. And thank you for bringing the points you already made. And these are really true topics. So, but I still understand that, just like you said, you pointed out these points, and if you persons are asking questions, why is it this way up to now, especially like it's so surprised people don't know that these flash sheets are not really made like here in Nigeria, and they can be so surprising. And then manufacturing is not being given that attention it deserves, like in Nigeria, for example. I take a look at like we mentioned, Detroit, Michigan, where most hardcore manufacturers are being done. I tell you, apart from just trying to make a car, and like a car, every part is unique. And just like you said, when these sheets when you bring in these sheets, let's say in flat, you need various types of machine, die machines, CNC machines, to transform these sheets from one shape to the other and make these things cheaper. Like presently, I deal a lot with CNC machines and things like that. So I really understand the challenges in terms of you importing it when it's already folded. And this is where brings to a big gap for someone that was trying to make a point, the engineers in Nigeria. Actually, the educational system also has this challenge that the curriculum or curricula currently does not even fit to industrial standards, such that there is a big gap, knowledge gap, even in the kind of graduates we are producing in Nigeria. There's this large knowledge gap where most graduates are not even, or don't understand the processes it even takes to get a full car ready, like the total assembly plant and things like that. So there's this thing called the triple helix synergy or something like that, being done by TED Fund, trying to make sure to bridge that gap between research, industry, and private organization, because I think there's just this they're not partnering properly very well, so that the industry is supposed to reach out to the researcher, show them their problems, and then the researcher is supposed to get to work and see how to solve this problem and then bring out the solution for the industry to work with. And then government is supposed to bring in their part by funding that solutions. But it's quite a big, huge gap. And I don't know when we're actually going to solve this problem, because it's way eating deep into the nation, and especially when we have a lot of youths who can actually explore certain areas, create jobs. I do not see what we need, like right now in Nigeria. I do not know what we're really lacking, because the human capacity is there, people willing to learn the current trends of technology and manufacturing, especially power is just like what you just said, very, very important. If power is not gotten right, because for every plant, every machine you're bringing into every assembly line must run a certain power. So if that is not really solved very well, I don't know. I think even the Ajakuta that's still happening, the problems I see here and there with most of these factories will still continue when our power is not very effective. So I just want to say kudos to you and what you're doing. I think you really need to get closer to the government and try to know or be in place so that such policies that favors just one particular person for his particular purpose do not go further, but rather, just like you said, Nigeria should make decisions for Nigerians, things that favor Nigeria. Look at Nigerian strengths, work on that strength, and not making things or taking decisions that don't actually favor a large number of people and just for a few people. So good that's job. Just my point. Thank you so much for having me.
Mr. Ajayi, he raises a good point about HR for you. HR.
Yeah, he said a lot of very good points, but I'm going to pick on the electricity. So most people know electricity is very expensive. Not very expensive, but it's in Nigeria at the moment a big part of our cost. So, which we can say is synonymous to being expensive, but when people compare it to what our counterparts are playing, you can argue that it's almost the same thing. But it's a big part. And also, apart from the costing part, it's also very frustrating because it's not available and it's not in the quality you want. However, I've said it a lot of times, for me, and for a lot, if you talk to a lot of manufacturers in Nigeria, they will admit to you that, yes, electricity is a big problem. However, it's probably not top two. I will talk about the automobile sector now. We have other things that we can compensate for our expensive electricity. We have very brilliant people in Nigeria. A lot of Nigerian youths are smart. I work with a lot of them every day. Smart people, super smart people. If you know how to find them, they are there. And the labor is not as expensive as anywhere else. So a place where you can see this kind of smart people for that amount, that's number one. Number two, the cost of land is not, which is one of the factors of production, land labor, is not very expensive. I call these two things raw diamonds because as brilliant as the Nigerian youths are, they need a bit of training. But if you do your hiring right, you get people that are very interested in your company, that are very interested in being successful. You do a bit of training, bit of brush up, and you have super world-class people with you. That's number one. Then you also have land. Of course, we have a lot of other infrastructural problems. No road, no this, no that. So you need to, like I said, it's a diamond but in the rough. You need to get that land, get it in a place. When you do those two things, and you have to now deal with the electricity problem, at the end of the day, you will find out that your cost of manufacturing is a little bit lesser than it is, for example, in China, as low as China is at the moment. The problem that we have in Nigeria, if all these things remain constant, is the uneasy way of doing business, the ease of doing business. You always have problem here and there. Either you are trying to clear the vehicle, you are trying to do this, you are trying to import, you are trying to export. You are always going to have problems. That is one of the issues we have. Number two is the inconsistent government policy. Just let us know what we are doing. Are we going left or are we going right? Does the government want us to create jobs in Nigeria, invest in Nigeria, in the automobile industry, or we don't want that? They want us to focus on agriculture. We need to know where we are going as a country. And the policies have to stay put because in my industry, for example, investments, when you buy equipment, the equipment sometimes have break-even points of minimum 7 years. Sometimes 10 years. So people want to invest. They want to be sure that I can stay in this thing for this number of years, break even, then start to make my financial gain. Then, like we've spoken about, we also need decisions from our government to show that we are going to support you. It's a no-brainer. We're going to buy from you. There is an executive order 5 which says that you have to buy your components, your vehicles from Nigeria. It is not being followed. It's like I said, the law is there already. It's there. You just need to enforce it. It's not being followed. People, you can only imagine. I said we have 500,000. It could be lower depending on the year. It could be higher. 500,000 vehicles and motorcycles are imported into Nigeria every year. Only about 5% of that is brand new. Imagine a market where about 50% of that is brand new.
I mean,
Just imagine.
I mean, if I take devil's advocate side, I will say the government can say we will buy the quote-unquote expensive locally made cars and leave the private sector to go buy the private cars. If the government alone says everyone must drive a locally assembled or locally whatever car,
It will solve
a lot of problems. Yeah, I mean, that's what we should use.
Problems. I was saying something. I have a friend. Okay, I won't mention the numbers. I have a friend who has an auto dealer, a big auto dealer. He does twice my revenue every year, and he has. In fact, he has more staff in his house.
What?
That means his cook, this driver, that. He has more staff in his private home than in his business.
So he's importing, you are manufacturing. He's doing better than you.
He has like 5 staff, maybe 2 salespeople, 1 accountant or so. But he does like twice my revenue. Why me? I do manufacturing.
Oh my god.
I have more than 60 to about 70 direct staff. Direct. Then I have another 100 indirect. And I do just 100 and something units a year. So you can imagine if I do 5,000 units a year. You can imagine how much jobs will be created. So and I will do these things. I'm not saying we should not solve electricity. I will do these things even at our current state. If the government just, like I said, Nigerians are enterprising. Just give us the right policy. Like I said, we built, I don't know if you're aware, we built one of the biggest innovation centers inside the University of Lagos campus. Really, really big.
Let's talk about that if we could.
Yes, so a lot of UNILAG students, professors in engineering come in there. Nigerians have brilliant people. Like, I don't know if I don't want to talk about it because we can talk about the UNILAG this thing. Because of that place now, we are building drones. We just started a drone company. We are building drones. We also built a ground control station, an autopilot. Ourselves, we wrote every line of the code ourselves. I took that code to China. I tested it in their aerospace division, and they told me it's one of the most powerful softwares they've ever seen.
Very impressive. Okay, which I very impressive. Let me get some folks, some guys. Let's get some folks in here that would like to jump in and have David. David, go ahead, sir. This Jai. Let's get David E. You've got the floor.
Okay. Hello, good evening.
Yes, is that David?
Hello, good evening.
Yes, David. Hi, how you doing? Go ahead, please.
Okay. Sorry, I'm outside. So, I wanted to ask 2 questions and 1 contribution.
Okay, let's make it.
Recently, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
This is noisy.
Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
So
We can hear you.
Okay, I wanted to ask 2 questions and 1 contribution. The question is, I have actually been hearing, about this policy, that the policy is one of the biggest problems that we have in Nigeria. But, when you spoke about the glass and also about the sheet rolling in Nigeria, I was thinking one thing. Is it not possible for the auto manufacturers in Nigeria to come together and, maybe the Auto Manufacturer Association come together and set up a joint venture, all of them, a joint venture with the manufacturer, with these glass manufacturers or with these iron rolling companies to actually solve this problem? Because I have actually seen it being done in some other countries where, okay, you cannot manufacture everything, so you set a joint venture with this thing, we are going to buy everything from you. But because of, the fact that your own size, because your own capacity is not that much, you can actually look at the possibility of maybe joining together with every other auto manufacturers in Nigeria. Because when this problem that you are facing is being solved, every auto manufacturer in Nigeria will benefit it. So what I'm asking is it not possible for the auto manufacturers to come together and tackle one of the major problems one of the bottlenecks that you are facing in?
Yeah, but why should they do that? Why should they do that? I think the point is about scaling and what a company has a balance sheet, right? So imagine if I make textiles and you are asking me to set up a power generating factory. That's what you're asking. Why should I do that? That's not my job.
No. Why I'm saying this is because of the government of the day, the government that we have in Nigeria for a while now. Or the truth that we know is that even if they say that they are going to help in such area, the possibility of them helping.
Let me even help you. Let me help you out here. Let me even ask. Like, we've even done what you are saying. We've even done it. I just mentioned to you earlier that we have an association, right? We come for meetings.
Yes, sir.
We have meetings, and we are a lot more friendlier than most people would think. We are all friends. We know each other. We all come for the meeting. We talk. We all know that if we get a bigger pie, which means that if Nigerians start to buy more brand new vehicles, it's better for us. The entire market, my company alone can take it. Like, the entire brand new market in Nigeria is so small that my company alone can supply it. And I know one or two other companies that can do the same. Do you understand my point? So the solution is we need to find a way to move more people who are buying used vehicles into the brand new vehicle segment. And people who are buying imported, fully built vehicles, like the government, the different arms of government, to start to buy made in their own country vehicle. Especially when you check the quality. We're not talking about, then do an open bid and select the best quality for the best price. So we have actually come together. We've done meetings. We've come together like one company. Disregarded our competitive differences. But most times we don't get the results. And that's because, that's because some people don't just want to do what they want to do in Nigeria. That's the truth. They just don't want to follow some of the rules and regulations. Like I said earlier, we have an executive order that says you have to buy made in Nigeria. If you cannot, you have to try. You have to go out there, try and buy a made in Nigeria vehicle. It's when you cannot buy it, you can now say you want to go outside. Ask yourself, how many parastatals, how many government agencies do this? And for those that are not doing it, who are even in the majority, what are they going to? What are the consequences of them not obeying this executive order? None. And that's why it continues to happen. So we've come together, we've done everything we need to do. We even came together at a point and said a steel pressing machine is about, and like not only a steel pressing whatever, it's about $20 million. We've come and said, okay, you know what? We will all come together to do this thing, to bring the money to this $20 million. You guys in government, just assure us that every year all your vehicles will come from we that we've done this. We didn't get any result from them. The meeting died. We did not get any result. We've done these things. But then they do not respond positively.
So tried, tested, been there, done that, got a T-shirt. I mean, if you don't get the market, you can't invest. It's that simple. All right.
Okay, sir.
Real quick. No, we got to move on, sir. We got to move on if you don't mind, sir. Yeah. Let me go.
Okay, I have my second question.
You have to be very, very quick. Very, very quick.
Okay, so the second contribution, I wrote about it recently. It's pinned on my tweet page.
So you got to ask the question real quick now.
Okay. So what I was talking about is the possibility of actually designing in such a way that the local market can actually be, that the locals.
Sorry, sir, I got to move on, sir. I'm so sorry, I got to move on, sir. I'm so sorry, sir, I got to move on. Let's get Otwell. Yeah, Otwell, you've got the floor, sir. Otwell?
Yeah, good morning. Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, go ahead.
All right, cool. So I have a couple of questions and some things I would like to talk about. So just real quick, I think one way we can grow get Nigeria to use more new cars is financing, and that's a major issue. If you go outside of the country, even places like South Africa, people barely pay cash down for cars. There's always that financing aspect to it. So if policymakers want to come in to see how they can grow, the use of new cars, and then probably target made in Nigeria cars. That's one way that you can then grow the numbers. There are a lot of companies in Nigeria that have like banks and the rest of them that have vehicle loans and give vehicle loans and all that to their staff. If there is a policy in place, maybe something like the way you have NHF for housing and all that, there's a policy in place, like a financial product that you can, create, and then maybe government can, kind of have some kind of backing and all that to it. That will go a long way to make it easy for Nigerians to have cars on a higher purchase and financing basis. Another question I want to ask is auto parts. One area that I feel that a lot of Nigerian local auto producers can do is things like auto parts, like maybe brakes and a couple of other auto parts that can also move and also target the export market. I don't know how viable this would be, but I think that is one of those things you could do that would help you and keep your factories alive. Again, I don't know much about it. I don't know how easy it is. Maybe it's probably being done. It's just something I want to suggest. Then there's also the issue of what are the lessons we've learned. We've been assembling cars since the 70s. I think Pan and Volks and Mercedes and a couple of other companies came into Nigeria in the 70s, and we had this grand plan. We were selling, many of us who grew up in the 80s and 90s used Nigerian cars. Along the line, something happened. A lot of the things you're suggesting now, government buying, procuring just only Nigerian cars and all that, all these things happened in the 90s. I remember growing up then, most governments, even up to early 2000s, most government cars were Peugeot. And even up till now, you still see a lot of government still, procure Peugeot and all that. But it didn't really work. Something along the line didn't work. So I feel like there's something we still need to learn, because the major thing for me, and the thing that kind of like, I feel like the major problem here is the cost of manufacturing. If it's cheaper to import than to manufacture here in Nigeria, then the economy will just decide there's nothing you can do. You can ban things and all that. Water will always find its level. And we've seen that here in rice. We've seen that in so many things that we've tried to ban. I think, what can we do to make vehicle manufacturing cheaper in Nigeria? How can we make it competitive? Because we're not just looking at import substitution. We should also look at exporting. South Africa today, a lot of the Toyota we use in Nigeria today, brand new Toyota, come from South Africa, right? Morocco too, there are other countries that have also gone into vehicle assembly and all that. So what are they doing? What do they have that we can leverage on? Is it power? Can we solve power, or have a free trade zone where we have cheap power, and that would then encourage heavy industries, because that's what South Africa did. Well, before they met their power up, they had cheap coal, and they used that to do heavy industries and all that. And so that's their competitive advantage. What competitive advantage do we have in Nigeria that will make vehicle production very cheap and allow us to be able to target the export market? Because that's where the money is. So, I guess those are my contributions.
Those are very, very, those are fantastic. Mr. Ajayi, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the raw materials and the loan, the other loan. Is it possible that I can go to Nord and get those two? I really love.
I'll start from this cost of manufacturing, because maybe I think I need to clarify properly, because
because I think it's a very, very important topic. So, there is a reason I mentioned earlier that we were, just immediately after COVID, we sold some Northants to the Egyptian market. And we have some customers in Ghana. If you go to the bus park in Ghana, you see some buses, some North buses. I've gotten pictures from my friends in Ghana sending me pictures and congratulating me. Why is that happening? Because we are cheaper. We are more affordable than the other alternatives in this market. If those people get to know more about us, like you said in the Caribbean, they will order more from us. That's why we need the volume. So the cost of manufacturing for us is as good, if not even lower, than our counterparts from elsewhere in Japan or USA. When we say it is cheaper, we are talking about the used market, or the how do I explain it now? If somebody wants to buy, most people want to buy vehicles now, they will go and buy a 5-year or 4 years old, 3 years old, which is not really so old, but also not new. Are you getting my point? So they go out there, they buy this vehicle, which has a status of used in international trade, but is as good in the social class in Nigeria. So they bring these things in, and that kills the incentive to make the vehicles in Nigeria. So, but if you take a vehicle, an SUV for example, part for part, that we assemble in Nigeria, and you take that same vehicle part for part that we assemble in Japan, the vehicle in Nigeria will be more affordable. I made a tweet about this some years ago. I said, about maybe a year ago. I said our counterparts elsewhere in Japan or America are buying brand new vehicles in America for $20,000. Mr. Carlo, you're in America, right? I'm sure a brand new vehicle in America, it would be difficult for you to see a brand new vehicle in America for $10,000. Is that true?
I played the fifth. Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I mean it's.
Brand new vehicle. What's the cheapest vehicle in America?
It depends on depends on the brand, really. You can get a car here for like 13,000 and all that.
What's the name? What's the name of the car?
Ford, those little Fords, little tiny GMs, little small, like they look like Tinos, very very tiny, sportish kind cars.
Okay, so $13,000. Very good. You can get a North vehicle for the equivalent of about $15,000. I'm not that size I'm talking about. Like a normal sized sedan that I'm sure you'll be getting for about $20,000. So why are we able to compete at that price? Because our cost of manufacturing is also competitive. Because even though we have relatively expensive electricity, I, as an entrepreneur, have identified some factors of production in Nigeria that are affordable, and we're using that. So, to answer your question about cost of manufacturing, I think we are fine. Going back, your next question before that was, there's nothing I want to do now we've not done in the 70s. I also mentioned that was one of the reasons why the senior men of my industry said no, they don't want any manufacturing because it would not last. The reason why it failed was policy somersault. Every country tries to protect its industry, different parts of the economy as they choose. The US does it, China does it. In China, Toyota is very scarce in China, very, very scarce. Why? Because the tariff, Toyota does not have a factory in China, and so if you want to be in China, you have to get a factory in China. So if you want to bring in China, then you have to import it in, and the tariff is really, really expensive. So we can do the same thing in Nigeria. So, okay, you know what? This Mercedes-Benz, Toyota, Kia, if you want to sell to Nigerians, then the vehicles that Nigerians drive must be vehicles that are made by Nigerians. Create jobs in Nigeria. You cannot bring in the vehicles where only 5-6 people are employed in the sales room and you are selling to thousands of people. You have to create that job. And it will only be sustained when the policy remains constant, when the policy remains encouraging. Impunity is why it didn't work. People got into government and they chose easy money. It's easier to import it in and sell. So what did they do? They decided to reduce the tariff so that you can discourage manufacturing and you can bring in more cheap fully built vehicles. And of course, the incentive to vehicles in Nigeria just died, because why would anybody want to make vehicles when there is no competitive advantage? And that's the reason why it just died. So we need to continue to support job creation in Nigeria. We need to continue to do things to keep policies that create jobs in Nigeria working. The other question he asked was about financing. I had a speech some months ago, and I said I do not see any reason why people have to pay for their cars in full. Cars are usually the second most expensive things an average person will buy in their lifetime after a house. So it makes sense to actually spread the payments for cars. Nigerians should not buy cars at once. You should spread it out for as much as 5-6 years. However, we have some problems. I tried to ignore it. 2 years ago, on my own, we started a financing program because we tried to get some banks to support. Some banks supported, but the interest rate was too high. Most customers were not interested because the interest rate was around 28% per annum. Most customers were not interested. So that when you say you are doing it, but it's at 28%, it's almost like you're saying you're not doing it. Because it's going to be very difficult to get somebody to buy a car and spread the payments for 28%. So we tried to do it, and we brought the interest rate down to around 15%, just to see how and it didn't work well. It didn't work too well. We had a lot of defaults, we had a lot of issues, which is some of the problems actually plaguing our credit system. We also have to solve that problem. But I think that, like you said, it is the way to go. The reason why we started the credit system was because I analyzed that if we're able to sell some vehicles with payments, with people being able to spread payments, we will sell maybe 10 times more than we currently sell. So that's like 10 times our current revenue. And that was the incentive for me. But we tried it, and it didn't work out too well. We had a lot of defaults. People just refusing to pay. People changing address. People moving away. People changing jobs. It was just so much problems because we don't really have a good identity system. So it's very hard for people to
get accredited. Yeah. Without national identity, you can't track people. If you can't track people, you cannot score.
Yes,
if you can't score, you can't. Yeah, good point.
And it's not always very reliable.
Yeah, and he's asking. I can take the last one. He's asking about the cheap power. If we're going to create a cluster, we should have done that yesterday, right? Create maybe a place, and our free trade zones could just do that. Go to the free trade zones on the coasts of Nigeria and create complexes with no taxes, constant power and security, companies moving there, and then of course the know-how and investment will seep out to the surrounding area. That's what China did.
Yes.
So we haven't done that. Calabar, so we just copy it. It's not rocket science. It's a good point. Just go there and get that done. Put out all that stuff there, and and we can start from there. AEJ, Mr. Manchester City. How you doing, sir? You've got the floor. AEJ, go ahead, sir.
Oh, yes, yes, AJ. I've heard a lot about what Ajayi is explaining and all those things. But my question is that, because my question I want to throw for him is that, have you made, because this is my first time of hearing this modern mobility automobile. Have you made this car be popular in Nigeria and for every part of the state to really come to close to the cars to really get to know about this car? Because one of the things, Nigerians love cars and you need to make it popular. And there is another thing I want to add. Are you the one financing this company yourself full time, or you have shareholders or with you? Because there's one thing I want you to understand, that if you give Nigeria an opportunity, and even the ordinary Nigerian to invest, like maybe buy share in your company, at least you have a plan for that company will grow and make a very good standard. Your company will grow. I will tell you, if you will give us, because I know many Nigerians who are looking for where they will invest, even the minimum to buy shares to make sure, and nothing will come that tomorrow, this company closed down and all those things. And you really got good intention, then definitely the company will grow. So I want to know what exactly is one of these two questions when I asked you, what is actually your plan for it?
Your first question is about.
He's saying how popular are you really promoting your brand?
Yeah, okay, so,
not a lot of people know Nord.
Well, Nigeria is a very big country, and I got to appreciate that we're trying to push Nord, because I used to work for Mercedes-Benz. It was easy, everybody knew Mercedes-Benz. But when I started Nord, and it was a lot. Like, we spend a lot in advertisements, we do a lot, and a lot of people, as much as we spend, you go somewhere else, people say, I'm just thinking about you today. As we're on space now, Mr. Kalu is very popular on Twitter. Something will happen tomorrow, and someone will still say, I've been on Twitter, I've not heard about this before. You'll be thinking, but we're on space with one very popular person, and so it's just, like I said, it just shows that Nigeria is a very big country. On our own side, very creative media. If you ask, that's one of the reasons why people actually love us, because we are there. We can relate to the average Nigerian, especially average Nigerian youth. We're showing Nigerians that this is a Nigerian dream. You can actually be in this country and make good things and do well, So, but we are being a bit patient. We are spending more money. We are going out there. We are doing more creative things. But I agree with you that we need a lot more work on that side. But I think with more sales and with time, we will be as popular as we need to be. So that's the first question. Your second question is about, do I own all the company? No, I don't own all the company. I own majority of it. I started the company in 2017. At that time, I owned 100%. In 2019, after starting the company and building some things and investing in certain things, I got some investors that got a part of the company. So I sold a fraction of it, and we haven't raised money since then until recently, which we got a new strategic partner. It wasn't even for the money. It was for they had some strategic inputs they were going to bring in on board. We gave them another tiny part. So at the moment, I still own a big part of the company, and we are not yet raising money from the public because we do not need it at the moment. We are trying to grow our company and grow the revenue and maybe do our proper, investment rounds and grow it to the point where we can do a proper IPO. By that time, by God's grace, we'll probably be one of the biggest companies on the African continent. So that's our plan. And hopefully, the more revenue we get, the faster we get to the IPO. So maybe when we get to the IPO earlier before then, maybe doing a round, if you know people there, maybe you'll be part of it. But right now, we're still okay with what we have.
trying to grow. He's trying to get his numbers up, traction up, and all that up. He needs to show capacity. Skill. That's the word. Skill wins. That's just it. Yeah. Skill wins. Hi, Ugo. You've got the floor. Ugo Chukwu. Hey, go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Carl. Mr. Ajayi, it's great hearing from you. I really love what you're doing. It's very inspiring. For entrepreneurs in Nigeria trying to make the impossible happen. Basically, mine was a bit of a suggestion and also a question, but it's a broad question that focuses more on the mindsets of, because I think 99% of what you're doing as an entrepreneur, it's mainly about mindsets, and then the rest, it's the efforts that we put in and also the system that we put in place. So, doing business in Nigeria, like building a company, like a real company that is doing a huge good in the public and also turning on profit, is like a mission impossible. And if you think of it as a mission impossible is a scenario whereby everything that is supposed to work in your favor is turned against you. So, in that case, it becomes your tax. It's just like you're giving a tax. Your tax is to make sure that you achieve this thing. Like in the normal sense, you're supposed to fail, like normally, in a mission impossible. But the tax is to make sure that all of those things, that you find a way to turn it around. So a good example is all of 99% of the constitution we're having here is around the government. So think of it this way. Government is your father. Your father is a drunk. He's at odds with your mom. He's sleeping with other women, and he's not coming back home. So you basically don't have a father. In that situation, what will you do? So it's usually the kind of mindset that an entrepreneur in Nigeria should adopt if they really want to make the headway. And it's also very important that when we have that kind of a mindset, it's not because we have, let's say, a negative mindset or perspective towards life. It's actually from a realistic perspective, because if you look at most of these other countries that eventually went from nothing to great and all of that, at some point their government was like very terrible. America didn't start off very rich and all of that. It was actually entrepreneurs that built America. It wasn't politicians. It was people coming from different parts of the world who are fed up with what is wrong, and even people who are within the country who didn't like what was happening. Entrepreneurs came up and then they started building business people, and they built a system. So in light of this background, I'd like to also borrow from what Othel said when he talked about.
Ugo, I'm going to have you ask a question. Ugo,
it was a question.
We're going to land the ship, Ugo. Let's land the ship, Ugo. Yeah. I got guys waiting.
When he asked the question of you collaborating with other automakers to find a way to make the steel and also to solve the problem of power, and you pointed out that you've tried that to some extent, but it didn't work. But if you look at realistically, you might find out that might be your only option if you really want to make a headway in this thing. So the question I'm asking is, can you delete in a scenario? Let's paint a scenario. If my question is, let's presume that there is no government. Let's delete government out of the situation.
Yeah, but Ugo, but there's government now.
There's no government when it comes to solving the problem of the steel and solving the problem of the power.
Okay, let me come in. Just answer your question. There is government. That's the reality. The American you mentioned, the men who built America, go and read the book. I don't know if you read the book. They took advantage of the fact that they were more or less the government. Rockefeller and the rest, right? They took advantage of the fact that they were close to government. They did a lot of things. There is I can't remember the name of the company. Mr. Kalu, can you remind me the company that was broken down into the oil and gas company?
Standard Oil.
Because they became too big.
Standard Oil.
Standard Oil, very good. Standard Oil. They grew because the government was supporting them. Then they became too big, and the same government said, "You are too big. Your size is now a disservice to the average American citizen. So let us get you broken down." There is government. Like you said, you mentioned, like you used to say the word father. For entrepreneurship or for businesses, you're not talking. If the government is like the father to a toddler, to a guy in primary school, you cannot do it on your own. You cannot do it on your own. The government has to, one way or the other, support you or look away, or they have to. So that's why we're saying the government has to do one or two things. Every company in the world, Tesla, General Electric, Intel. I just mentioned the foundation of Intel that it makes our computers. You think Intel will not have been possible without NASA. That means your computer would not have been working if the America did not try to compete with USSR in the 1950s and 1960s. And you will not have Silicon Valley. Because in the 1950s and 1960s, the biggest contractors of the companies in Silicon Valley, go and read it, were the US military and NASA. So the government has to, like Mr. Kalu also mentioned, we're not saying that you should just wait on the government. No. The government will help you build capacity. Then, when you build capacity, you go out there, because you now have capacity, you have employees, you have everything. You go out there, go to the world, and start solving problems at better price. That's how it's done.
I agree. I agree. The government should give you scale, i.e., give you the power to negotiate. I mean, if you read the story, if you can read the story about, is it Hyundai and South Korea? They had a military dictator. He came in, he called Hyundai and said, "Go and build ships." He just didn't go and build ships. They were people looking for ships. Hyundai knew nothing about ships. And they went to Scotland, got order for 2 ships, went back, trained South Koreans, and delivered the ships. It's a lot. I'm just summarizing the story. But the point is, the government was interested in creating in South Korea an export-led economy. Any which way was going to be done. So we're not just saying shoot blanks. But what do you want to do in Nigeria? Are we going to do agriculture and feed ourselves? Are we going to do export and export? What do we want to do? Then every government policy must then align. If we're importing, let's do that. I know we're going to import, and then goods are going to be cheap in Nigeria, but we'll sell crude oil and fund those imports. So we'll export a lot of crude oil. But right now we're not exporting crude oil. We are importing. We're doing capital substitution. We're doing import substitution. There's capital controls. There's subsidies. The policies are disjointed. So if we know where we're going to, if we know where we're going to, we can buy a car or buy a keke and get there. But if today the road is here, tomorrow the road is gone, it's on the left-hand side, then you can't plan. Imagine if you were a business today, they floated the currency, you are planning on a floated currency, then they float it somehow back, subsidy somehow, but you need planning. It's not businesses don't like uncertainty. The stock markets don't like uncertainty. If things are clear, if the dollar is going to be 10,000 but it's going to remain at 10,000 for 5 years, you can plan around that. You can plan around 10,000. Even if it's expensive, you can say, okay, I'm going to build my car at 5,000. But if it's 10,000 today, 1 tomorrow, 1 million next year, you really can't plan. That's the problem in Nigeria. Stability of macroeconomic indicators. You need to have those things stable. Even if inflation is 25%, okay, let it stay there, B. Then we can then start look for policies that will then have local products that have a lower inflation. But if it's all over the place, then you have a problem. That's really my take what I think is going on. Thanks, Ugo. Thank you, Mr. Ajayi. Again, not just thank you for hanging out with us. We're nearly at 3 hours. We're going to end at about 40 minutes at the top of the hour. Thanks for hanging in here and talking to us about not just Nord, the SME side, the investing side, the entrepreneurial side. This is what I wanted to come and talk about, right? To give us your sense of the Nigerian economy, that side of that, what you guys go through vis-a-vis policies that you're seeing. I think you're doing justice to that. Just to give you a shout out and just to thank you for that. Eze Chikwelu, VIP Wosu. How you doing, sir? Eze Chikwelu, VIP Wosu. Your hand.
Can you hear? Yeah, can you hear me?
I can hear you, sir. If you guys tell us where you're calling from, you're good to go.
Hi, Ajayi, Mr. Ajayi and Carlo. Thank you for having me. I'm calling from United Kingdom. Mr. Ajayi, I've got 2 questions for you. One of them is mainly around more like educating us on electric cars. Then the second one has to do with total cost, for Nigerians. So, borehole, we lost hope or faith in government providing us water in Nigeria. And people started digging borehole. Now people provide water for themselves. There are also people who build houses in Nigeria and have solar panels on their houses, on their roof, and they no longer rely on PSCN for power. Now, we started thinking and discussing this, mine and some of my friends, with regards to the challenges that we face with PMS prices, people being able to fuel their car in Nigeria. So, we are thinking, how can we save Nigeria and also save the demand pressure on PMS? And how can we relieve that burden from Nigerians? Then we thought, we have sun as a natural resource to us almost all year round in Nigeria. If we have electric cars in Nigeria, and I have my house in Nigeria, I can put solar panel on my roof, drive my car, come back, plug it in. The sun that powered my house via the solar panel will charge my car. Then the next day, I can go out and do my dealings and come back easily. That way, we will reduce that demand pressure on PMS. I know it's quite expensive, but please, I want you to educate us more, throw more light on the challenges with building electric cars in Nigeria. I was listening when you talked about the gas, how that it's cheaper or it's preferable to have the gas-powered cars than electric cars. Can you throw more light on why we cannot look at the fact that we have the sun as natural resources, use that as an incentive, and think towards building electric car? That's one. Number 2, if all variables are steady and are constant and equal, do you think you will be able to produce cars that are worth between 3 million and 5 million naira? Those are my 2 questions, because I think that would see Nigerians, thinking about driving new cars like our fathers did back in the 80s and 90s when they bought Peugeot for 3,000 naira and all that. So these 2 questions, can you please educate us more on that? Thank you.
Okay, thanks. So your first question on the electric car, and I like your illustration. Well, that's a very good illustration. And like I said earlier, I like electric cars personally. But as a businessman, I'm always driven by solving problems. And I've looked, and of course, solving problems, you can look at your environment or the environment, target market, your audience, how you're going to solve the problem. And I realize that a lot of them still have electric, providing electricity for themselves. So, but with what your illustration, your example, is a lot more straightforward. You put your solar panel on your roof, you get your charging station, you get your electric vehicle made by Nord, you bring it into your home, you charge overnight for 8 hours or 5 hours, it's charged. The next morning you can drive it for even a whole week or more, because you can do like 200, 300 kilometers. Very good. It would work. But the question is, how many people can afford this? How many people who even drive vehicles in Nigeria today can afford to power their home throughout the night? You can. I can.
Yeah.
But how many people can? How many Uber drivers have power? Not even 24 hours. Have power from 8 o'clock when they get home to 5 a.m., 6 a.m., 7 a.m. when they wake up. So that's my challenge with electric vehicles in Nigeria, and I hope that we can solve that problem, because electric vehicles will solve a lot of these problems. It's yes, the initial cost at the moment may be more expensive, but I think that just like the volume thing, as we do more volume, we can reduce it, and people can charge their vehicles and drive around. It's something that we are doing. We're also doing the CNG. That's why I said I think the best bet for Nigeria is a combination of both. Nigeria doing CNG and promoting CNG because we have a lot of gas, and also us making electric vehicles because we have sun and we can get our solar panel and charge our electric vehicles. So we are looking at both of them, but we have to be mindful. We have to understand the kind of country that we're in. So we don't even have enough power to charge their phones. That's the reality in some places. So it's a balance. So I think that answers that question. Then the second one about cars, 3 to 5 million naira. The world is in a global market at the moment. It's just global. The cost of crude oil, the cost of this, cost of that, cost of steel are priced at the international market. I've explained this thing on my Twitter handle or X timeline before. An average car, a small car, has about, that body that I mentioned to you, is about 1.5 tons. A ton of good steel, not pressed, I mean flat sheets, is about $1,000. So if you need about 2 tons, that's about $2,000. So only the sheet, I'm talking about with pressing, it's already $2,000 already, regardless. So, and even if you make those steel in Nigeria, you have to buy it at that amount, because if you go to the steel company in Kaduna, the person would rather sell to the person who wants to buy steel in India at $2,000 at the international market for buying steel, than sell to you. You want to buy it at a lower amount. So we are still going to price it at that amount. So when you get the steel, you get the engine, you get the transmission, you get the upholstery, you get the chairs, you get the airbag. Now you have to talk about the safety, the airbag, the chassis. You are going to be seeing a vehicle that the minimum $8,000, $9,000, $10,000 realistically. Then you have to now put the cost of the equipment, the depreciation, the operating expenditure, and all those things. So basically, you'll be seeing a vehicle that will be about $12,000, $11,000 at whatever the dollar rate is. So my point is this: it's still going to be priced in USD because it's an international market.
Okay. Just before I go really quickly, Mr. Carlo, please, just 10 seconds. Mr. Ajayi, let me just say this. We have this attitude in Nigeria. It's not the best of it, but we have this attitude of, anything that is expensive, we are so attracted to it. People will do whatever it takes to have it. Partly just to have it for their own comfort, but most importantly, just to brag to their neighbors that, you see, I have this. If you look at the improvement that have gone on in the houses that are being built from Lekki, down, into towards the Bay and all that, you can see the kind of houses that people are building. People are building service apartments and all that. I want to think that if you and your colleagues, when I say your colleagues, I mean the people you have in your association who manufacture cars, would look towards the electric car and try to create awareness on the advantage that people would have having that solar panel and how easy it will be. If there will be a kind of a breakdown cost, numbers will tell us. Numbers speak better than words. If you will give people in number terms what they stand to save if they invest that big money in having solar panel. I want to think as Nigerians, people will start having that. And you will see going forward when people build houses that they want to rent, they will put it as one of their marketing tools that I have solar panel. I'm not just building a service apartment, I have solar panel. If you move into my house, you are home and dry with your electric cars. That's just what I'm thinking. And this is what I would just suggest that maybe you and, people in your association would think, would maybe consider, maybe not immediately, but in the nearest future, consider something like that.
Let me just
it would work.
Yes, thanks. I agree with what you said. We are because we've not launched it yet, so I'm not going to go into details. But we are doing something very big with a commercial bank in Nigeria and one of the international bodies, and with the governments of a couple of states in northern Nigeria. We are making in Nigeria here electric tricycles. Thousands of it. It's going to be a big project. It's a big project. Launching thousands of it, and we're going to give it to women in the north to be able to help their families, so we are solving the transportation issues and also making those women not have to buy the expensive petrol and providing transportation for people from one point to another, and also ensuring that these women are able to earn money to support their family and build a better family, and train their children better. So, like I said earlier, we are launching thousands of units in the first phase, and we're going to do the announcement sometime in October. So, and you will hear the details, the partners, the banking partner, the state governments, and the partner. But yeah, we chose electric vehicle because and like I said, this is keke tricycle. So electric tricycles. We chose electric because we understand that with the price of petrol going up, with the CNG infrastructure not being there, electric is the way to go. So in doing that, we also, because like I said, it's all volume. We are doing about 1,000 at the moment. Because of the volume involved, we're also creating the charging stations for these women. And it's strictly targeting women in the northern Nigeria. So we're creating the charging stations so they can always go there and charge. They don't have to have the headache or this or that. Because I know the reality, if you build the EV and tell them, oh, please go take the EV home, it would fail. So we had to also build the infrastructure in northern Nigeria for these women to be able to charge these electric tricycles and move people from one point to another and earn money for themselves and for their family, and hopefully alleviate some of the symptoms of poverty, and make things better for them.
Thank you.
Good.
Thank you, Carlo, for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks so much. And let's get Aman. Aman, you're up next. Go ahead, sir. I've got the first light. Aman is getting ready. First light 2025. Please go ahead, sir. First light. You got the floor? Okay, that's two down. Third one, the calculus. Please go ahead and speak, sir.
Yeah, good evening.
How you doing?
Thank you, Mr. Kalu, for this wonderful platform. And Mr. Ajayi, good evening as well. Thank you for the enlightenment. Yeah, I understand the frustration. Well, I'm not your shoe, but I can feel the frustration, especially when you speak about government support, and it's clear that it will be very, very difficult for any manufacturing entrepreneur in Nigeria to survive or to grow without some support from the government. Purchase from the government or sales from the government is to me is the least of the problem from government. Creating an enabling environment, creating cheap raw material, access. For example, the steel. We cannot talk about manufacturing, especially for automobile, without mentioning steel production in Nigeria. That accounts for more than like an average car has like maybe over 1.2 tons of steel, and that's a major challenge. And that's why, I always when I see your tweet, I feel like, this man is really trying, doing all these things amidst these challenges, you understand? So what I want to ask is that, we know we have a problem with production of steel, and sincerely, production of steel is not just two-step process. It's actually primary steel, primary production. It goes beyond just taking ore and putting it in. Hello? Yeah, it goes beyond taking ore and putting it in one machine and we get out steel. It's a series of processes up to from everything to till the last stage stamping and pressing, like you said, and all of that. So I want to ask: is there in Nigeria now, as a manufacturer, as a car manufacturer, is there also, because we have this apart from?
So you got to ask the question, sir. Go ahead and ask the question. Hello? Go ahead and ask the question.
The question is car manufacturing business at recycling the aspect of steel? Maybe it will also help and also accelerate our access to steel materials in Nigeria. That's my first question. Second question is...
You got to ask the second question directly. Just ask the question directly, sir. Just go ahead.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. The second question is, we have policy and legislation problem, like you mentioned. But there is, I'm aware there is Manufacturing Association of Nigeria, and which should also be a source of support, skeletal support for this kind of problem. What action are they taking? Are they taking? Are you a member, or what action are they taking to make sure that there are stable policies and legislation that can also support the manufacturing business in Nigeria? Thank you.
So I also come into recycling of steel. The answer is that's not our business. It's in the value chain, but it's not really our business. Our business is to assemble cars, manufacture some of the components that we need, put it into the assembly process, and make the vehicles safe, elegant, and durable and affordable for our customers. So that is a very, very far part in our value chain. And no auto company that I know in the world is very involved with that. So we have vendors, we have suppliers that will help us get this steel. That's how it's done everywhere. So the answer is no, it's not really what we're interested in. It might be a profitable business, but that's for somebody else. That's the answer to that. The second question is, is NAMA doing very well? NAMA is doing fairly well. Well, there's always room for improvement, but I think they are fair. They try to push for us, and I think they are doing the best they can do. Like I said, there's room for improvement. We try to advise them on what to do differently. But they are doing well. The secretary of NAMA is very active, and he tries his best. So yeah, they are helping. We just need to be closer to the government. We need to let the government see that supporting the automotive industry is automatically just improving Nigeria's GDP and easily creating a lot of jobs. That's what I think we need to do. And it's not only left to the ESCOs of the association. We, as stakeholders in the association, have to also join them in doing that. I think that's one of the things we've been doing. We've not really done that very well. This year and going forward, I want to be very, very involved in doing that.
Okay, thank you. I have a suggestion actually for you and other car manufacturers that may be on this platform, because if we see, somebody asked a question about popularity in Nigeria, and I think that what has helped brands even outside Nigeria is the entertainment industry as well. Maybe you can. I've not seen any Nigerian movie where, maybe there is, I don't know. I've not seen a Nigerian movie.
The one was even very popular, was on number one for a couple of weeks.
Okay, that's nice then.
But
That's nice. That was okay. Nice.
Mr. J. Mr. J.
I'm not really a movie person, but sometimes when I watch all this, like this Jagun and all these movies, sometimes just a suggestion. I'm really glad something like that is already on.
Yeah, we're a couple of movies where Sisters, where one other movie. I can't remember the name now. We've been in like 2 or 3 movies, and 2 of them were number 1 for a while. Sisters was number 1 for about 2 weeks or so, 1 week. So. Yeah.
And also, Mr. Jai, also people have to stick. They might see it and not know it's not. That's another thing. You might be there, and they might see it. Yeah. So Ken, Uti, you've got the floor.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Carlo. Thanks again, Mr. Ajayi, for being here. I hear the passion in your voice. I hear the love for your trade, what you do. And I mean, as you've heard everyone speak today, you can hear that Nigerians love their country, and you touched on a lot of things, quite important things, talking about factors of labor and how that affects your business and all the analysis that you've done. And one thing that you touch, which is of vital importance, is the ease of doing business. When most people in government talk about ease of doing business, what they always think it means by that phrase, ease of doing business, is about starting a business. How easy is it to start a business? But it's beyond that. Ease of doing business is a metric that is calculated using different factors. And there's also a component getting construction permits, getting electricity, like you said rightly, registering properties, getting credits, sanctity of contracts, trading across borders. I mean, it's a lot of components, and it's quite difficult, I know, to scale a company like yours in the Nigeria of today, with all the myriad of challenges we have, especially around infrastructure and all other problems. It's easier for the flutterwaves and the pay stacks to easily scale, because they can be in their bedroom and run a digital company. They can scale digitally. But for you that require boots on the ground, it's quite difficult. And one sure way that at least would help you grow is to ensure that ease of doing business environment is conducive for businesses to thrive. I mean, if you look at the Dangote refinery, for example, that man had to construct his own power plant dedicated for that complex, sourcing gas from somewhere in the Niger Delta, dedicated for that plant, because he knows that none of that kind of critical facility will come from the government. I would like to add to you quickly, so that I don't hold the man for too long, considering the amount of time we have left. If you've considered the industrial layout in Ikeja, because I know of certain companies there that are currently powering their facilities using the gas pipeline going across that place. So essentially what these guys did was they looked at their cost. Of course, using diesel, running diesel is quite expensive. And they discovered that we have an advantage because there's a gas going across our complex, industrial complex. So they discussed with the owner of the gas pipeline, and we were able to sign a gas sale agreement and tapped into that pipeline, bought an equipment called PRMS, which is an equipment that helps to reduce the pressure of the gas into your facility, and then all you need to do is to buy a gas generator. So and I mean, we know gas is cheaper when compared to diesel. And these facilities, they are running right now 100% on gas, away from the grid, and they are running their business. I wish maybe you can look into it and if that is possible for your company.
Okay, so
I don't know. That's unique.
Okay, so hello?
Go ahead. I can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, so we have been able to solve some of our power problems. We currently use gas where actually we have 2 factories. I don't want to go too much into details because some of the details are trade secrets to bring our costs of production down. So I won't go into much details because I don't know who is listening. But just know that at Nord, we solved our problem well. We have a relatively good price for electricity. could be frustrating here and there because it's not regular, but overall it's fair, it's fine compared to what is applicable even elsewhere in the world. So that's fine. That's the answer to that. So, but talking about ease of doing business, yeah, you mentioned something else about ease of doing business. Yes, one of the biggest problems, and I can go on and on because I had not only me, my entire industry, the Nigerian automotive industry had a big problem with the last administration. We had a big problem. We complained to everybody and anybody in that administration, to the VP, to the Minister of Trade and Investment, to the Minister of Finance. But now we have a new administration. I would not want to, I would just let us hope that things are going to be different. I've spoken to a couple of them, and they promised us that things will be different because, like I said earlier, some of the things that we went through were just unnecessary. It just should not happen. We spoke to our DG, who admitted that a lot of the things should not have happened, and we're hoping that the new administration, and we're trusting them that they would be able to make things a lot better for us. Okay, let me just touch on one topic. You need a license. You need the automotive license to assemble vehicles in Nigeria. You should all know that you cannot just wake up in the morning and go and start assembling vehicles, right? You need to get a license. And that license, for reasons best known to them, which I understand is only valid for 1 year, which is, okay, fine. But the problem is that as at the last time, the new administration is there, we're hoping things are different. As at last time, it took people between 4 months to 8 months to renew their license. So basically, it's like you have a bank, you need a banking license from the central bank, and when you're banking, and you have to renew it every year, and when you apply for renewal, which should take only 2 weeks, according to the meetings they've had with us and the rest, it takes about 4 to 8 months, which means you are technically out of business between 4 to 8 months for that year. It happened numerous times last time. My license is currently active. It's not going to expire until some time. Hopefully, when it expires, we won't see the same problem with the new government. We're hoping that. So these are some of the problems we have. Why is it delayed? No reason. The file just sits on somebody's table for weeks. That's the reason. They say you want to come to the factory to do inspection. Some people will not just leave their table to come for the inspection for 2 or 3 months. Why? Nothing. They're just there. That's it. Nothing. No reason. And if you don't have the license, you cannot legally assemble, and you cannot also legally import. So you are just stuck.
But why is it 1 year license? If you're a factory CAC, you already know. Why 1 year?
They said that it was to ensure that those that are trying to game the business, basically those that are not compliant, those that are not serious, will need to come for revalidation every year. I get their point, because the truth of the matter is that we know the popular brands, myself, saying a couple of companies, we know that those ones, they have the factories were even posting our factory social media, so you know that we are there. We don't need. But I agree that there are some companies that may have the license and may just get it because the license has some perks, so they may want to just get it and not use it. So they will be forced to go back every year to get it. We've tried to argue that some of us that we've shown you capacity, can you exclude us from this 1 year? Well, they haven't done that. But personally, I don't have a problem. You can come and revalidate my factory every year. I don't have an issue with it. But don't waste time. Don't waste time. Just do it at the right time. Come, check, revalidate, and let's move on. Well, for me, I'm a young guy. I always give them problems. I'm always calling people. My own is a lot faster, but it shouldn't be so. We don't have to You don't have to say I'm upset entrepreneur before you do the right thing.
Gotcha. We're just getting all this information. I just think 1 year if you were brand new, but once you show production capacity or you show that you're exporting, maybe 2 years on a graduate scale, then maybe 3 years. So that way it's an incentive for you to stay in the game and get your license extended. All right, we're almost coming to the end. We've got about 10 minutes more. Let's get 3 folks in, Ajayi. Just 3 folks, and then we'll end it. I've got Hulk, Bethel, and Sam. So Hulk, let's go first. Hulk Hogan, GCFR. Go ahead, sir. Let's go to the point if you don't mind.
Good evening, everyone.
How you doing?
Good night. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Ajayi Oluwatobi. I've listened to your speeches since earlier today. Thank you for all you do in a difficult environment like Nigeria. Thank you for your tenacity and your insights. I want to talk a little bit. What I want to talk about is kind of what I call the political economy. Because at the end of the day, when we talk about the economy, the business of what you're doing, it comes down back to leadership or politics or, how things are being done in the country. And that affects, what you're able to do, what you're unable to do. And, for example, with the issue of electricity, for example, how that affects the business. And this is my personal belief. I believe that there are some, maybe I'll call them elite or cabals, who are kind of there, many of them in the country, and they don't have the national interest of the country at hand, in their hearts. They just want to make money, a lot of money, exploit money, and they don't want to develop the country. And I believe that this is part of the reason why Nigeria is where it is today. Because how can you explain, for example, that Nigeria can give people like a country like Niger or Benin power, and and some of them even have 24-hour electricity, but Nigeria does not have that. How do you explain that? Since 62 years after independence, it's been 63 years now, you're almost going to circle around the same thing over and over again. So it is not that it is not that the resources are not there. It is not that Nigerians are not smart. They're one of the most brilliant people in the world. Is because these few elites are there controlling things, making a lot of money, and the rest of the country is getting poorer. So I want to just encourage many of us who are listening here to get engaged in politics, not just at the national level, but also at the local level, because at the end of the day, politics affects even the business, right? Ease of doing business. Why would it take you 8 months, for example, to just renew your license? Because somebody is expecting that maybe you have to give them money for them to do that, and then 8 months in the life of a business is eternity. That's almost 3 quarters. Almost 9 months. So I just wanted to get involved. We've had a very contentious election still going on. Well, I don't think we should take our eyes off the mark, because we see that how the leadership of the country affects how the country develops. We spoke about America. The men who developed the United States, they were entrepreneurs. But the government of the day gave them the right hand of fellowship. They helped them, gave them the environment by which they were able to develop the country. We spoke a lot about NASA, about Intel, about NASA, about Silicon Valley, and how that helped America to propel and become a prosperous country. So, but our leadership, we don't have, Nigeria has a leadership problem. We've spoken about that. Everybody has spoken about that. And we still continue to have that leadership problem up to now, because the right people are not there, the right people are now allowed to be there, because the few people who are there want to keep everything to themselves. So we have to keep engaging the system, because I think that's the only way for somebody like you or other entrepreneurs to be able to be successful. Because for example, I think
Hulk, let me get to the wind down.
It's helping Innocent Motors, for example. They are placing an order to get their cars. They are able to scale. So I just wanted to keep involved. I think it's very important for us not to lose sight of what is going on, to keep engaging the system, to keep pushing back, to keep bringing the idea, so that way entrepreneurs like yourself and many others can be able to thrive, because it doesn't make sense to me why the country we have the richest man in Africa, at the same time we have the poorest poorest per capita GDP in the world.
Okay, Hawk,
that's a contradiction.
Yeah, Hawk,
so please, thank you very much for all you do.
Thank you, Hawk.
Keep engaging the system. Thank you.
Appreciate that. I think Ajayi basically gives me advice: engage. I agree with him. Yeah. So let's go to Bethel. Bethel, you've got the floor, real quick.
Yes. Thank you, Kalu. Ajayi, greetings to you. So, Kalu, I would first of all shoot a shot. I have 2 submissions. I will shoot a shot, and I'll ask my question. Please, I crave your indulgence. Okay. So, Ajayi, greetings to you. So, I work at, I am the CEO of Tels Impact Consulting. It's a firm that I founded to support the research and innovation landscape in Nigeria. We kind of observed that the innovation drive in Nigeria is just tilting toward the service sector, and there's this gap between.
No, you're gonna ask your question directly, sir. Just go ahead.
I said I shoot short.
No, I have guys waiting. Go ahead and ask your question directly, sir. Go ahead.
All right. So Ajayi, you talked about Unilag and what you're doing in Unilag. It's quite of interest to me, and also because that's my space. So I would appreciate the opportunity to discuss further with you what you did. We want to learn from your model. So now my question is, you work in this manufacturing space. How has the skill match been for you? Like people coming out from our universities and you employing them, has been the skill match? And what do you think is the gap around our universities participating in this sector? How the research feeds into production and manufacturing, just like what you do? What do you think? Because I think research is an important element in this whole space. Because the faster you innovate, the more you can win the market space.
Gotcha.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. I've been pleasantly surprised by the people that I've met, not only the young people, even the professors, the older ones, and they've been very brilliant. A lot of Nigerian trained engineers and scientists are, like I said, very, very brilliant. So, but of course, there's a bit of gap. What I notice is that sometimes we don't believe that we can do things. So I have to do a lot of mentoring. I have to let people know that there's no difference between us and, the Europeans or the Americans doing this thing, especially if you are good enough. I have to remind them that if you leave this Nigeria, you are going to work in a factory there. You're going to be the one producing this thing. So we can actually do the R&D here ourselves and make these things ourselves. So in terms of the capacity, the intellectual capacity, we have what it takes, we're doing it, and there's a gap, there's an infrastructural gap, so we don't have some of the equipment, which is why we set up the innovation center to bring all the equipment needed to get our brilliant guys working. So I just think we need to do more of what we've done. Even we need to do more in other places. Like it's not direct. It's going to take some time. It's going to take maybe 10 years, but I'm sure very soon we're going to start reaping the fruits of what we've done, and Nigeria is going to start making a lot of things our own self. So that's it.
Brilliant.
I would really like the opportunity to speak with you further.
Yeah, DM.
No problem. I'll follow you now. I see you follow me. I'll just follow you so you can send me a DM.
Excellent. Great stuff, guys.
Thank
Great
you,
stuff.
Carlo.
You're welcome, sir. Welcome. All right, sir. So we've just basically been speaking to, just having a 3-hour discussion with Mr. Ajayi Oluwatobi, the chairman and CEO of Nord. I have learnt a lot, and I know you all listening have learnt as well, right? Because so many things we've taken for granted. We just had the policy. We want to distill. We've tried to distill this policy down to the guys that have got their hands dirty, quote unquote, on the field of entrepreneurship in Nigeria. And what we've heard is not really encouraging. But what we've also heard is that there's a solution. We haven't heard despair. We've heard this is the problem and this is how we can fix it. And it's not talking about give me billions. It's talking about pass this policy, do this, do that, and I will do this and do. Not just him, his sub committee, manufacturers, because what he's saying affects also other manufacturers. If we can do this policy, it would unlock this job, it would unlock this GDP growth. So I think it's something we should, push as a government to get things working. Enough of the talk. We've been a bit slow. Let's get things going. That's the word I want to say for today. So Ajayi, thank you so much for staying with us. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. If we call you again, please come back, sir. And I applaud you and your team at Nord. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you very much. And you're doing great. You are doing so many great things. So many great things.
Thank you, sir. Much. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it, sir. All right, guys. I'll let you guys go home and enjoy the rest of your weekend. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you next week, Sunday, 7 p.m. West African time. On that note, bye. Thank you, guys.